Chapter 1592. Listening to Lin Tian's words, and Shui and Wuxing Crocodile were really shocked, and even little Taichu stared with wide eyes. There was a demon suppression hall in the primitive emperor token, and there were even immortal king-level ferocious beasts sealed there. Moreover, Lin Tian claimed that he could control those terrifying ferocious beasts in the demon suppression hall. This Wuxing Crocodile stared with wide eyes, opened its mouth, and spat out the word this, but no other words came out. And Shui also stared with wide eyes, deeply shocked by Lin Tian's words. Only little Taichu was a little better, and was not as shocked as Wuxing Crocodile and in Shui, because although the little guy had been born for a long time, his mind was still like that of a child. And Shui and Wuxing Crocodile only calmed down a little after dozens of breaths. "What you said, is it true?" Wuxing Crocodile asked with wide eyes. Lin Tian's words were too shocking, and it still found it hard to believe. "Well, have I ever lied to you?" Lin Tian Ondao. As he spoke, he held the primitive emperor token, and with a slight movement of his mind, he directly summoned a true, immortal-level ferocious beast from the demon suppression hall in the primitive emperor token. It was a dark flame sparrow, about 5 feet in size, but the aura it exuded was very shocking. Then he made a demonstration and issued a few simple commands, and the dark flame sparrow he summoned did all of them without any hesitation or resistance. Seeing this scene, Wuxing Crocodile's eyes widened, and Shui was also shocked, completely believing Lin Tian's words. Little Taichu blinked, looking at the dark flame sparrow summoned by Lin Tian with a look of interest. Lin Tianyi smiled, and with a thought, the dark flame sparrow returned to the demon suppression hall in the primitive emperor token. And Shui and Wuxing Crocodile were both shocked, and after a long while, they calmed down again. This ancient token, it's simply, and Shui looked at the primitive emperor token and was really shocked. Wuxing Crocodile took a deep breath, calmed himself down, and looked at the primitive emperor token and asked Lin Tiandao, "So, you can fully control this primitive emperor token now?" "No." Lin Tian shook his head. "I can't control it completely right now. I can only barely summon and control some of the vicious beasts in the demon suppression hall." "Can't you use it as a weapon attack?" the 5 Elements alligator asked. "I can't." Lin Tiandao. When he held the primitive emperor token, he tried to use it as a weapon to attack, but it was useless. He couldn't use the primitive emperor token to attack. "So it's like that, what a pity." Wuxing Crocodile was a little disappointed. One must know that the primitive emperor token itself was an extremely powerful weapon. If it could be used to attack, it would be absolutely terrifying. "Don't be disappointed. It's already a huge gain to be able to summon those fierce beasts to help in battle." Lin Tiandao. "Oh, that's true?" Wuxing Crocodile nodded. Lin Tiandao held the primitive emperor token, and with a thought, the primitive emperor token immediately turned into a glimmer of light and entered his sea of knowledge. The cave was neither big nor small. He paused here, and then called in Shui, Wuxing Crocodile, and little Taichu to leave. "What's next?" asked Wuxing Crocodile. Their main purpose in entering peaceful ancient land was to find the legendary mysterious dragon armor. Now, they had found the mysterious dragon armor, and in Shui had also found the immortal lotus. It could be said that coming to this ancient land could be considered a success. At this time, they suddenly didn't know what to do next. Isn't this ancient land said to be extraordinary? There are a lot of immortal opportunities and precious treasures. Let's take a look around. There should be some heavenly materials and earthly treasures that are very useful to us. They can help us improve our cultivation quickly. Lin Tiandao. "Oh, I think so too." And Shui nodded. Wuxing Crocodile clicked his tongue and said, "Then let's look around and try to dig out a few more super heavenly treasures." "Yeah," little Taichu responded in a childish voice. Obviously, it had no objection. Then, the 2 people and the 2 beasts walked in a random direction, heading to other parts of peaceful ancient land. Soon, they walked far away, and a very vast mountain appeared in front of them. The mountain was about 10,000 feet tall, and there were many plants. Every plant was extraordinary, and it was difficult to see them from the outside. This mountain, Lin Tian stared at the mountain in front of him. He was slightly moved, and his eyes turned cold. "What's wrong with this mountain?" asked Whooshing Crocodile. At the same time, it looked at the mountain in front of them seriously because it knew that Lin Tian had mastered the dragon burial scripture and was very good at mountains and rivers. At this time, Lin Tian looked at the mountain in front of them with a strange expression. It immediately realized that this mountain was not ordinary. Lin Tian's eyes were intertwined with strands of dragon patterns. He looked at the mountain in front of him and frowned slightly. "It's a bit ancient. It's that person, and those two beasts." Suddenly, a voice came from afar, directly interrupting him. Looking in the direction of the voice, 8 figures appeared in the northwest direction. They rushed to this place quickly and arrived in the blink of an eye. They were 8 young men, and all of them had strong qi and blood. Their cultivation ranged from the early stage of true immortal realm to the peak of true immortal realm. "It's really them. They're the ones who killed Elder Du's brothers and nephews," one of them said coldly. Hearing this person's words, Lin Tian Wei narrowed his eyes slightly. In an instant, he knew the identity of these 8 people. They were the disciples of the Real Treasure sect. At the same time, and Shui, Whooshing Crocodile, and Little Taichu naturally recognized these 8 people as the disciples of the Real Treasure sect. "You got guts. How dare you kill Elder Du's brothers and nephews? You really don't know how to write the word death." Among the 8 young men of the Real Treasure sect, a man in green sneered. "Speaking of which, there are more than 1,000 inner disciples and tens of thousands of outer disciples in the Real Treasure sect. Many of them have gone out to look for you, but unfortunately, they didn't find you. I didn't expect you to be a disciple of one of the other 9 great treasure sections. Now, you've even entered the peaceful ancient land to gain experience. So what if he's a disciple of one of the other 9 great treasure sects? He looks like he has just reached the early stage of true immortal realm. He's just an ordinary inner disciple. The sect he belongs to won't go against a golden immortal elder of the Real Treasure sect for an early stage true immortal realm inner disciple like him. Don't talk nonsense with him. Chop off his head and offer it to Elder Du. It'll be a great merit for us." The men sneered. Obviously, they didn't know that Lin Tian had already killed Elder Du. They still wanted to kill Lin Tian to claim credit for their achievements and rewards. "I'll kill him," the azure-robed man who spoke first said. His cultivation was at the early stage of true immortal realm. His true immortal qi and the law of immortal Tao were extraordinary. As soon as he finished speaking, a sharp sword with a faint cold light appeared in his hand. He held the sword and strode toward Lin Tian. "Idiot!" Whooshing Crocodile couldn't help but mock him when he saw the azure-robed man charging toward him with a sword. Lin Tiansha had already killed Elder Du of the Real Treasure sect, but these disciples of the Real Treasure sect still wanted to kill Lin Tian to claim credit from Elder Du, and Shui couldn't help but roll his eyes. Clang! An ear-piercing sound of the sword reverberated. The azure-robed man was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he was already in front of Lin Tian. The sharp sword in his hand slashed down mercilessly. Sharp sword qi intertwined on the edge of the blade. It glowed with divine light and cut through the air with a whistling sound. Li Ye's sword is quite powerful. It seems that his understanding of the primeval chaos sword technique has improved. This is the heart-connecting sword of the primeval chaos sword technique. It's not easy to control it well. Now, looking at his posture, he can already control this divine ability very stably. Very powerful. It's indeed very powerful. An ordinary cultivator at the mid-stage of true immortal realm would have to put in some effort to resolve this sword. Not far away, 3 of the other 7 disciples of the Real Treasure sect said. Then, the 3 of them looked at a blue-robed young man in their group with obvious flattery on their faces. However, compared to Senior Brother Chun, he's too far away. He can't be compared at all. Of course, he can't be compared to Senior Brother Chun. Senior Brother Chun has already reached the peak of true immortal realm. He'll soon become a half-step golden immortal and become the new true disciple of the Real Treasure sect. That's right. Senior Brother Chun will soon become a true disciple. Moreover, with Senior Brother Chun's talent, after he becomes a true disciple, he'll definitely be one of the top true disciples. The other disciples of the Real Treasure sect also praised the blue-robed young man. The blue-robed young man's name was Chun Inha, and he was the strongest among the 8 disciples of the Real Treasure sect. He was at the peak of true immortal realm. At this time, when he heard the compliments of the others, he looked very calm on the surface, but there was a trace of pride in his eyes. Then he looked at the blue-robed man named Li Yi, who used the Sword Dao divine ability to slash Lin Tian, and said, Li Yi's heart-connecting sword is still a little lacking, but his divine power is extraordinary. He's much stronger than an ordinary cultivator at the early stage of true immortal realm. With this sword, it's enough to kill that person. As his words fell, Li Yi's sharp blade had already arrived about 10 feet in front of Lin Tian. The divine power on the blade became even more shocking, and the sword chi became sharper. I'll take your head first, then I'll send your companion to accompany you. Li looked at Lin Tianling and smiled. The sharp blade in his hand turned and directly slashed at Lin Tian's neck. Lin Tian looked at this person with a calm expression and an indifferent smile. He raised his right hand. The movement was very simple. He only bent his finger and flicked it. A golden sword chi immediately flew out like lightning. Crack! With a crisp sound, the golden sword chi collided with Li Yi's sharp blade, and the blade was torn into pieces on the spot. Chapter 1593. Blood splattered in the air. Li Yi of the Real Treasure sect fell to the ground with a thud. His vitality was gone in an instant. He was dead. Suddenly, Chun Inha and the other 6 disciples of the Real Treasure sect turned pale. How is this possible? One of them was shocked. Li Yi, who attacked Lin Tian, was not weak. He was about to reach the middle stage of the true immortal realm. But now, he was killed by Lin Tian with just a snap of his fingers after using the heart-connecting sword. He is only at the early stage of the true immortal realm. How? How could he kill Li Yi so easily? Another person was also shocked. Chun Inha's face darkened. He had just said that Li Yi's sword was enough to kill Lin Tian. But in the next moment, Lin Tian killed Li Yi with one blow. This was a slap to his face. Go as far as you can. Otherwise, you will all die here like him. Lin Tian glanced at Li Yi's corpse and said to the 7 people. He directly killed Li Yi and did not explain why he killed the big shots of the Du family and Du Qingzhou, because he was very clear that Li Yi was the same as the 5 disciples of the Real Treasure sect who tried to kill him a few days ago. They did not care about his explanation and only wanted to kill him for the reward. The other 7 people with Li Yi were the same. Therefore, after he killed Li Yi, he just gave the other 7 people a warning. He did not explain why he killed the people of the Du family. In fact, he did not have the obligation to explain to these people. When the 7 people of the Real Treasure sect heard Lin Tian's voice, the previous surprise disappeared and turned into coldness and anger. You are only at the early stage of the true immortal realm. First, you killed Elder Du's brother and nephew. Now, you want to kill the orthodox disciples of the Real Treasure sect. You are so arrogant. A man in yellow said coldly. He was at the middle stage of the true immortal realm. At this moment, he stepped out and closed in on Lin Tian. Divine light intertwined around his body, carrying killing intent. In a flash, he appeared in front of Lin Tian and slammed his palm towards Lin Tian. This was not a simple physical attack, but a kind of divine ability. The palm force contained the chi of a true immortal, and the palm wind was intimidating. It completely sealed the space around Lin Tianyi, not giving Lin Tianyi the slightest chance to dodge. The power was more than 1 level stronger than the immortal connecting sword that Li Yi had just slashed out. It was completely different, as if it could shatter everything. Under the pressure of the palm, this person looked at Lin Tian with cold eyes. Soul-breaking palm. Under the palm, the soul will be broken. Suffer, noisy. Lin Tiandao interrupted this person's words and directly struck out with his palm. This slap of his was purely made up of his physical strength. However, its might was 10 times more frightening than the absolute soul palm that the yellow-clothed man had unleashed. In the blink of an eye, it had defeated the yellow-clothed man's palm energy, after which the slap landed on the yellow-clothed man's body. Ah! The yellow-clothed man screamed. He was directly smashed into pieces by this slap. Only his spirit managed to escape, and his face was full of fear. Lin Tian's expression was indifferent. He flicked his finger, and the power of the 5 heaven-shaking thunder incantation turned into a silver sword light, slashing out in a straight line. The yellow-clothed man's spirit trembled. Naturally, he felt the terror of the silver sword light that was slashing towards him. He immediately dodged in fear. However, the silver sword light that had evolved from the 5 heaven-shaking thunder incantation was extremely fast. In a flash, it had arrived in front of him and pierced through his spirit. Amidst another shrill and desperate scream, his spirit was directly shattered. How is this possible? The other 6 youths of the True Treasure sect, except for the blue-clothed youth, Cheninha, who was at the peak of the true immortal realm, the other 5 people's expressions changed drastically. They could not help but tremble. The yellow-clothed youth in the middle stage of the true immortal realm was killed so easily. Lin Tian glanced at the 6 people, his expression still calm. I'll give you one more chance. Leave. Otherwise, all of you will die. Killing Li Yi, who was at the early stage of the true immortal realm, and the yellow-clothed youth in the middle stage of the true immortal realm did not affect him at all. This was because, for him now, killing people of this level was too easy. It was no different from chopping grass and chopping firewood. After all, he was the strongest reincarnation body. He had experienced heavenly tribulations all the way until now. Moreover, he had refined the spiritual root of the immortal Tao and strengthened his genuine immortal Qi and the law of the immortal Tao. Now, he was absolutely invincible under the half-step golden immortal realm. Of the 8 people of the True Treasure sect, only 6 were left. Except for the blue-clothed youth, Cheninha, the other 5 were at the early stage of the true immortal realm, while the other 3 were at the middle stage of the true immortal realm. At this time, seeing Lin Tian's terrifying combat strength, their expressions turned ugly. He was too strong, far beyond their imagination. At this time, a cold snort was heard. The blue-clothed youth, Cheninha, stepped out, his eyes cold and arrogant. Senior Brother Chen is going to attack. Hey! The 5 disciples of the True Treasure sect, who looked ugly just now, had their expressions turned gloomy. Cheninha was very powerful. He was at the peak of the true immortal realm and was about to reach the half-step golden immortal realm. Now that Cheninha was going to attack, the 5 of them believed that Lin Tian was going to be in trouble. He would be suppressed and killed by Cheninha in the blink of an eye. Lin Tian looked at Cheninha. Cheninha's cultivation was not weak, but to him now, it was nothing. It seems that you don't want to live anymore, just like the other 2, he said calmly. When the other 5 disciples of the True Treasure sect heard this, they could not help but sneer. I have to say that you're very strong to be able to kill Li Yi and the other one. But so what? You're only at the early stage of the true immortal realm. How dare you try to compete with Senior Brother Chen, who is about to reach the peak of the true immortal realm? How dare you say such words to Senior Brother Chen? Shameless boasting. You think too highly of yourself. The 5 of them sneered. Cheninha's expression was cold and indifferent. He walked toward Lin Tian step by step. With every step he took, the genuine immortal Qi on his body became denser. When he took the 7th step, the genuine immortal Qi outside his body had reached an extremely high point. Then, in the next moment, along with the clanging sound of swords, a total of 49 sword lights appeared around him. Each sword light was extremely sharp, as if it could cut through everything. Obviously, it was a very powerful sword Tao, great divine ability. Escape sword. Senior Brother Chen used the escape sword to deal with a cultivator at the early stage of the true immortal realm. This is the core divine skill of our sect's sword skill. Not many people below the golden immortal realm can control it. It's at least 1,000 times stronger than the immortal sword skill. Behind him, the other 5 disciples of the True Treasure sect were shocked when they saw Cheninha's 49 sword lights. Then, The five of them looked at Lin Tian. Their shock disappeared, and their expressions became cold again. Senior brother Cheninha used the escape sword. Heh, I don't know if this is his honor or his sorrow. One of them sneered. Almost at the same time, the 49 sword lights around Cheninha became even colder and more powerful. Die! Cheninha looked at Lin Tian with a condescending attitude, like a high and mighty divine king, and said indifferently. As soon as he finished speaking, sonorous sounds reverberated. The 49 sword lights moved directly, like a joint attack sword formation, and slashed at Lin Tian from all directions. Their sword momentum was so sharp that it seemed to be able to cut everything. Not simple. Whooshing Crocodile frowned. The divine skill he used is not ordinary, and his cultivation is at the peak of the true immortal realm, so its power is naturally very strong. And Shui said. Lin Tian's expression was normal. It's not a big deal. As he said that, he directly attacked. His movement was very simple. He slapped down with his palm, which was covered with wisps of silver lightning. This was the palm he used the 5 heavenly thunders technique and strong physique courage. Crack! 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 Crisp sounds were heard, and the 49 sword lights that Cheninha used were directly shattered. Moreover, a thunderous force spread through the void and landed steadily on Cheninha. With a bang, he was sent flying hundreds of feet away. Senior brother Chun, the other 5 people of the unreal treasure sect, who were looking at Lin Tian with cold mockery, instantly disappeared. In the blink of an eye, they were all shocked. Cheninha, who was at the peak of the true immortal realm, had used a powerful escape sword, but it was easily shattered by Lin Tian, and Cheninha was sent flying in a sorry state. Even in Shui and the others could not help but look surprised. And Shui looked at Lin Tian and said, You just entered the true immortal realm not long ago, but you can actually defeat a cultivator at the peak of the true immortal realm so easily? Lin Tian shook his head. It's not that simple. I also used a divine sense. In the distance, Cheninha, who had been sent flying, steadied himself, and the coldness on his face disappeared. At this time, he looked at Lin Tian with a shocked expression. He had used 90% of his battle strength in the escape sword just now, because Lin Tian had easily killed Li Yi and the other person, so he could see that Lin Tian was not an ordinary cultivator at the early stage of the true immortal realm. However, he never expected that the 90% of his battle strength, which was at the peak of the true immortal realm, would be defeated so easily by Lin Tian. Moreover, he was sent flying far away and suffered some injuries. He looked at Lin Tian with shock and coldness in his eyes. He, who was at the peak of the true immortal realm, was defeated and forced to retreat by a cultivator at the early stage of the true immortal realm. Moreover, it was in front of the other disciples of the unreal treasure sect who came with him. For him, this was undoubtedly a humiliation. You, clang. The sound of the sword was ear-piercing, directly interrupting the person's next words. Lin Tian raised his hand and did not waste time talking nonsense with this person. He formed a seal with one hand, and an extremely powerful killing divine ability in the Heaven Ascending Sword Manual was immediately activated. A huge sword of light condensed behind him, and with the unparalleled sword will, it slashed straight at Cheninha. The sword of light was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, it was in front of Cheninha. The powerful sword power made Cheninha, who was at the peak of the true immortal realm, tremble violently. His eyes involuntarily revealed an expression of fear, and he could not help but shout, "Stop!" Lin Tian's expression was calm. It was impossible for him to show mercy. "I'll return the words from before to you. Die," he said calmly. With a clang, the heaven-ascending sword of light that he had summoned became even fiercer, and with a peerless sword power, it mercilessly slashed down. "No!" Accompanied by a shrill and unwilling scream, Cheninha was directly slashed into a cloud of blood mist. His physical body and divine soul were simultaneously shattered by this fierce sword, and he died. Senior brother Chen, how is this possible? How is this possible? It's impossible. Of the 8 true treasure sect disciples who came here, only 5 were left. At this time, they could not help but tremble in horror. Chun Inha, who was at the peak of the true, immortal realm, was actually killed by Lin Tian. Lin Tian tilted his head and looked at the five of them. His gaze was very calm, but it made the five of them tremble violently, and their eyes revealed an expression of fear. Then, in the next moment, with a whoosh, the five of them, without exception, all fled into the distance. Even Chun Inha, who was at the peak of the true immortal realm, was killed. The five of them knew very well that even if they joined forces, they would not be able to stop Lin Tian. If they stayed, they would only die. Only by fleeing could they possibly save their lives. Lin Tian watched the five of them flee, and his expression was still calm. Beside him, 5 fierce sword lights appeared, and each sword light was extraordinary. They were all divine powers, and they were aimed straight at the heads of the 5 people who were fleeing. Boom! Suddenly, with this place as the center, an extremely tyrannical divine power appeared in the distance in the northeast, and it rushed over rapidly. This kind of divine power was very shocking, and it was mixed with the rich aura of a golden immortal. Lin Tian was slightly moved, and he tilted his head to look. At the same time, the 5 people from the Hunjin treasure sect, who had already fled far away, couldn't help but tremble. They stopped running and looked towards the northeast. There, the figure of a brown-robed old man fell directly into their field of vision. Elder. Chapter 1594. The 5 youths from Hunjin treasure sect were excited. They all looked towards the northeast where a brown-robed old man was rushing towards them with a powerful golden, immortal aura. He was one of the 3 elders who led them to Peace Ancient Land this time. Whoosh! The sound of the air breaking echoed. In just a moment, the old man in brown robes appeared in front of Lin Tian and the others. Elder Jean! The 5 young men who had fled far away returned and came to the old man in brown robes in the blink of an eye. Elder Jean, it's him. He's the one who killed Elder Du's brother and nephew. One of them pointed at Lin Tian and said in a voice full of killing intent, "Previously, there were 8 of us, but we met him here by accident. We wanted to take him back and confess to Elder Du, but he killed 3 of our inner disciples. Among them, even senior brother Chun Inha, who was ranked 7th among the inner disciples, was cruelly killed by him. Elder, we can't let him go." The sudden appearance of the old man in brown robes made the fear on their faces disappear and turn into malice and coldness. This was because the old man in brown robes was an elder of the Hun Real Treasure sect at the level of Golden Immortal. With a Golden Immortal elder here, they were naturally not afraid of Lin Tian. At this moment, they looked at Lin Tian as if they were looking at a corpse. The old man in brown robes was called Jin Ingluan. When he arrived, his eyes fell on Lin Tian and the others. They were very cold. After hearing the words of the 5 people, his eyes suddenly became colder and colder, and there was a chill spreading from his body. You killed 5 disciples of the Hun Real Treasure sect. Now, you killed 3 of our disciples. Very good. Very good. Jin Ingluan was one of the 3 elders of the Hun Real Treasure sect who led the disciples to Tai Ning Ancient Land. He recognized Lin Tianyi and the others because he had received a divine light with many images of his divine sense. In it, Lin Tian and the others killed the 5 inner disciples of the Hun Real Treasure sect. As he said this, he looked at Lin Tianyi and the others. His eyes grew even colder as he coldly shouted, "Du Yuanqing went after you. Where is he?" The Du Yuanqing he was referring to was naturally the 3rd brother of the Du family. Some time ago, the 3rd brother of the Du family had gone to hunt down Lin Tian and the others. Originally, with his strength at the Golden Immortal Realm, he should have been able to suppress Lin Tian and the others in the blink of an eye. However, several days had passed since the 3rd brother of the Du family left, and he had not returned. Even when he tried to contact him using a special secret technique, there was no response. This made him and another elder of the true treasure sect feel that something was wrong. Therefore, he set out to find the 3rd brother of the Du family on this day. Then he happened to sense the unique aura of the Huinjin treasure sect in this place. He guessed that the disciples of the Huanjin treasure sect were using the Huanjin secret skill to fight a very fierce battle. Then he rushed here, but he didn't expect to see Lin Tian and others here. "Speak, where is Du Yuancheng? He went to kill you. You should have seen him before. Where is he?" He shouted at Lin Tiandao. Lin Tian looked at the brown-robed old man. The aura of the golden immortal realm from the old man made him feel great pressure. However, his expression did not change, and he was not afraid at all. Moreover, he naturally knew that the Du Yuanqing the old man was talking about was the third brother of the Du family. He said lightly, "He is dead." Then he added, "I killed him." He did not hide or conceal anything. There was no need to hide or conceal anything. Of course, the most important thing was that he could see the coldness and killing intent of the brown-robed old man towards him. Therefore, he did not want to waste too much time talking, because no matter what he said, the old man's coldness and killing intent towards him would not dissipate. "What?" The 5 young men of the Huanjin treasure sect were shocked when they heard the brown-robed old man's question to Lin Tian and Lin Tian's answer. Lin Tian had already killed 5 people from the true treasure sect. Elder Du of the Huanjin treasure sect went to kill Lin Tian in person, and then he disappeared. And Lin Tian said that Elder Du was killed by him. How is that possible? Swallow crazy words. Elder Du is in the golden immortal realm. In front of Elder Du, who is in the golden immortal realm, you are just an ant in the genuine immortal realm. How could you kill Elder Du? The 5 of them shouted. The brown-robed old man, golden eagle wheel, looked cruel and walked directly towards Lin Tian. His aura of the golden immortal realm intertwined, and he said coldly, "You killed 8 disciples of the Huanjin treasure sect, and I will tear you into pieces later. Now, I will search your sea of consciousness to see if you know the whereabouts of Du Yuancheng." As he said that, he directly raised his hand and grabbed at Lin Tian. Golden Eagle Wheel was an expert in the golden immortal realm. At this moment, he grabbed at Lin Tian. Although he did not use his divine power, his aura was very oppressive. Lin Tian's expression was extremely calm. He welcomed the other's arm and directly punched out with an iron fist. Dong! There was a loud boom. This punch contained his strongest physical strength, as if it was going to break through the solid void of the immortal realm. In the blink of an eye, his iron fist collided with Golden Eagle Wheel's big hand, and a deafening bang was heard. Golden Eagle Wheel's body trembled, and he could not help but stagger backward. Lin Tian, on the other hand, stood firmly in the same place. How is this possible? The 5 young men of the Huanjin treasure sect all turned pale. Their elder was in the golden immortal realm, but now he was beaten back by a genuine immortal with a single punch. Even in Shui, Wuxing Crocodile, and Little Taichu, who knew that Lin Tian's body was very strong, could not help but stare. An early-stage genuine immortal defeated a golden immortal with pure physical strength. This is really, and Shui could not help but roll his eyes. He was really shocked by the strength of Lin Tian's body. Your body is already comparable to a golden immortal's? Wuxing Crocodile stared at Lin Tian and asked. The further one went on the path of cultivation, the greater the difference in strength between small realms, and even greater the difference in strength between large realms. Now, Lin Tian had just entered the early stage genuine immortal, but he could defeat a golden immortal with a single punch. Even though Lin Tian was a reincarnated body and had experienced more than 10 heavenly tribulations, it was still shocking. This was really a little too frightening. Lin Tian shook his head. Of course, it can't be compared to a golden immortal. The reason why I could defeat him with a single punch is because I used all my physical strength, and he just casually grabbed me. As he spoke, he looked in front of him. There, the brown-robed old man, Golden Eagle Wheel, had already stabilized himself. Junior, Golden Eagle Wheel stared at Lin Tian with shock in his eyes. But more than that, there was anger. He was a golden immortal, but he was forced to retreat by a genuine immortal with a single punch. For a moment, the aura of a golden immortal thickened outside his body, and his divine power surged even more violently than before. Once again, He forced his way toward Lin Tian, and the cold killing intent spread directly in this space. I can feel your cold killing intent. Here, I advise you to stop and leave. Otherwise, you will regret it. Lin Tian Dao. Facing the Golden Eagle Wheel, who was a golden immortal, he appeared very calm. Stop and leave? Otherwise, you will regret it? Golden Eagle Wheel laughed in anger, and the golden immortal aura on his body became even more shocking. He stepped toward Lin Tian. This old man wants to see how you will make this old man regret it. As he spoke, he moved again, and once again grabbed at Lin Tian. This time, his big hand had the divine power of a golden immortal, and it was obviously a powerful divine ability. Facing this attack, Lin Tian's expression was still calm, and he did not move at all. He made a simple seal with one hand. Suddenly, a blue vortex appeared in front of him, and a silver python rushed out, letting out a loud roar. The silver python was 1,000 feet long, and its pupils were red and green. As it roared, it spat out a silver beam of light and directly met the Golden Eagle Wheel's big hand. With a swoosh, the divine power on the big hand was annihilated, and then the Golden Eagle Wheel's big hand was shattered. Blinding red blood splattered all over the sky. Golden Eagle Wheel stumbled back again, and at the same time, his expression changed. Looking at the 1,000 feet long silver python in front of Lin Tian, his body trembled violently, and he felt an extremely terrifying demonic aura. At the same time, the 5 true immortals of the True Treasure sect were naturally shocked. Staring at the 1,000 feet long silver python, the 5 of them trembled, and they could clearly feel the overwhelming demonic aura of the giant python, which made their souls tremble, as if it would crack the next moment. He can summon a foreign tribe demon? And he's so strong? The 5 of them looked at Lin Tian and could not help but show a horrified expression. Even in Shui, Whooshing Crocodile, and Little Taichu were shocked. This was summoned from the ancient medallion? It's definitely at the level of a golden immortal, and it's definitely comparable to a pinnacle golden immortal. Whooshing Crocodile was shocked. Previously, Lin Tian had told them that he could summon ferocious beasts from the Demon Suppression Hall in the Primitive Emperor token to help in battle, and they had seen Lin Tian summon a true immortal dark flame sparrow with their own eyes. But at this time, seeing Lin Tian summon a pinnacle golden immortal silver python, they could not help but be shocked, and their eyes almost popped out. The giant silver python was 1,000 feet long, and it hovered in front of Lin Tian, staring coldly at the Golden Hawk Wheel. This was naturally summoned by Lin Tian from the Demon Suppression Hall in the Primitive Emperor token. It was a ferocious beast at the pinnacle of Golden Immortal Realm, and it was a primitive species. Even if it faced a half-step Mystic Immortal, it would not be at a disadvantage. He looked at the Golden Hawk Wheel with a faint smile on his face and pointed at the opponent with his index finger. The 1,000 feet long silver python suddenly let out a roar that shook the sky and swooped down to attack the opponent. Its speed was very fast, and it arrived in front of the Golden Hawk Wheel in almost an instant, and the snake's tail swept out. The Golden Hawk Wheel was shocked and immediately used a powerful divine ability to resist. However, the strength of the silver python was far stronger than him, and it instantly suppressed the divine ability he used and then firmly landed on his body. Chapter 1595. Blood floated in the air as the golden immortal elder of the Hunjin treasure sect was smashed into pieces. Blood splashed on the ground. Elder! Elder! The 5 youths of the Hunjin treasure sect were shocked. Their powerful elder was smashed into pieces by the silver python. And Shui and the others were also shocked. The power of the silver python shocked them. Rumbling sounds could be heard as blood and flesh wriggled. Not far away, the brown-robed old man's golden eagle disc reformed his body. At this moment, his body couldn't help but tremble. After being smashed apart by the silver python, he truly understood how terrifying the silver python was. He looked at Lin Tian in shock and anger. He never thought that Lin Tian could summon such a terrifying beast. Retreat! He gritted his teeth and shouted at the other 5 disciples of the Hanjin treasure sect. Then, he immediately retreated and fled. Facing the silver python summoned by Lin Tian, he knew very well that he couldn't fight against it. Now, he could only retreat. With a whoosh, in the blink of an eye, the man retreated far away. At the same time, the other 5 youths of the Hanjin treasure sect also retreated as fast as they could. Lin Tian laughed coldly. A thought passed through his mind, and the huge silver python immediately roared. It was just like a divine python formed from lightning as it charged forward. In an instant, it caught up with the golden eagle wheel and swung its snake tail, landing on the golden eagle wheel's body. Ah! The golden eagle wheel screamed as his body was smashed into pieces. At the same time, the other 5 youths of the Hanjin treasure sect were only affected by the strong wind brought by the silver python's tail. They all fell to the ground and coughed up blood. So strong. And Shui looked at the silver python's attack and couldn't help but stare. The golden eagle wheel was not weak, but under the attack of the silver python, it was like an ant crawling on the ground. In the distance, the golden eagle wheel quickly reformed his body. His face had become very pale. Obviously, after taking 2 hits from the silver python, he was seriously injured. Damn it! He looked at the silver python and then looked at Lin Tian. His body couldn't help but tremble. He was even more shocked and angry. The threat of death from the silver python was firmly wrapped around him. This silver python was too strong. He couldn't stop it. Now, he couldn't even escape. There was no way he could escape at all. At the same time, a sense of regret rose in his heart. He regretted that he didn't choose to leave at the beginning. He wouldn't be in such a desperate situation now. Now, do you regret it? Lin Tian's voice timely. The golden eagle wheel immediately trembled and stared at Lin Tian. Lin Tian's expression was calm as he said, I've said it from the very beginning. If you don't give up and leave, then you'll regret it. As he spoke, he pointed at the golden hawk wheel and said, Kill. The silver python roared and immediately rushed out. The majestic demon Chi shook the space and directly shrouded the golden eagle wheel. The silver python was comparable to a half-step Xian immortal. Its attack was incomparably terrifying. Although the golden eagle wheel was also at the golden immortal level, under the attack of the silver python, it seemed to be a little weak. Even if it supported the immortal Tao law, it was useless. It was smashed by the silver python again and again. Stop! Stop! After dozens of breaths, the golden eagle wheel was almost out of oil. Its eyes were full of fear, and it let out a weak voice. However, Lin Tian obviously wouldn't be merciful. The silver python launched an even fiercer attack under his will. Soon, another dozens of breaths passed. The golden eagle wheel screamed miserably. It was directly destroyed by the silver python. How fierce! The whooshing crocodile looked at the silver python and couldn't help but stare. After all, it's an ancient beast comparable to a half-step Xian immortal. Lin Tian sent the silver python back into the demon subduing hall in the primitive emperor token. Then, he looked at the other 5 youths. It's your turn, Yu. Facing Lin Tian's eyes and hearing Lin Tian's words, the 5 youths of the Primal Chaos Treasure sect trembled violently. They never thought that Lin Tian, who was only at the early stage of the true immortal realm, would have such a terrifying means. He could summon a terrifying beast comparable to a half-step Xian immortal to help him in battle and kill their golden immortal elder, the golden immortal golden eagle wheel. Moreover, at this time, they completely believed that their elder Du must have been killed by Lin Tian, just like what Lin Tian said. They wanted to kill Lin Tian and ask for a reward from a dead person. This was simply a joke, a great irony. However, at this time, they no longer had the energy to care about such a joke and irony. Obviously, they only cared about their own lives. Fellow Taoist, we know our mistakes. Please be magnanimous and let us go. The 5 of them begged for mercy. They knew very well that it was impossible to escape, and they couldn't defeat him. Now, they could only beg for mercy from Lin Tian, hoping that Lin Tian would let them go. Weren't you all very arrogant before? Why are you begging for mercy now? Whooshing Crocodile mocked them. The 5 youths of the Primal Chaos Treasure Sect suddenly looked very unsightly, but they dared not refute him. "Please, fellow Taoist, please spare our lives." The 5 of them braced themselves and said in a trembling voice. Lin Tianyi smiled. Without any superfluous words, he raised his hand, and a dense sword light appeared and slashed at the 5 of them. He had given these people a chance at the beginning, but he didn't want to kill them directly. However, these people only wanted to kill him for the reward and didn't care about his warning and opportunity at all. Therefore, how could he show mercy now? If he had to kill, he would kill. Clang! The sword clanged, and the dense sword light flew at an extremely fast speed, enveloping the 5 youths of the Primal Chaos Treasure Sect in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, the 5 youths of the Primal Chaos Treasure Sect were smashed into pieces. Their blood splattered everywhere. At the same time, dense silver lightning fell from the sky. Lin Tian performed the 5 heavenly thunder spell and bombarded them with one of the thunder divine arts. In an instant, the exposed divine souls of the 5 youths were shattered into pieces. The 5 of them were destroyed in body and soul. Immediately, the place became much quieter. "It's finally over," and Shui said, and then looked at Lin Tian with shining eyes. "It's amazing that you can summon such a powerful python." At this time, she was still surprised by the silver python that Lin Tian summoned. According to the attack of the silver python, if Lin Tian wanted to, he would be invincible under the profound immortal realm. Fortunately, Lin Tian said with a smile. Whooshing Crocodile's eyes were also shining. He clicked his tongue and said, "The primitive emperor token is really an amazing treasure. To be able to summon such an amazing beast." And from what Lin Tian told them before, the number of such beasts that could be summoned was more than one, and the strongest one could summon was the immortal king-level beast. It was very excited just thinking about it. "Yeah," little Taichu also called out in a childish voice. After that, the group of people's eyes fell on the mountain in front of them again. "Speaking of which, kid, you said that this mountain is a bit strange before. What exactly is strange about it?" "Lord Crocodile can't feel anything," Whooshing Crocodile asked. Lin Tian looked at the mountain in front of him. After a pause, his eyes fell on the surface of this place, and he couldn't help but frown slightly. Seeing him like this, Whooshing Crocodile was even more curious. "What's wrong?" And Shui and little Taichu also looked at him. "Here, 9 people died, and all the blood that fell on the ground is gone." Lin Tian on Dao. Hearing what he said, and Shui, Whooshing Crocodile, and little Taichu looked at the surface of this place, and were all stunned. It's really gone. What's going on?" And Shui showed a strange expression. Including the Golden Eagle Wheel, a total of 9 people died in this place just now. Blood spilled all over the ground, but at this time, the blood completely disappeared. Not even a drop of blood could be seen on the surface. This was abnormal in any case, because even if the blood could penetrate into the soil, it was impossible to penetrate so quickly. It didn't make sense. This, Whooshing Crocodile frowned. Lin Tian's eyes were intertwined with light. He opened his eye of illusion breaker and looked at the ground, then looked at the mountain in front of him. After 10 breaths, he frowned again, and then his body trembled violently. "Retreat! Leave here!" he said quickly. He opened his eye of illusion breaker and stared at the mountain in front of him. He saw a huge shadow of blood, and there was an extremely terrifying aura intertwined in the mountain, which made his spirit tremble involuntarily. Whooshing Crocodile was surprised and doubtful. "Retreat? Why?" Boom! The ground shook, directly interrupting his words. In front of him, the mountain collapsed, and there was a bloody light rushing up. In the blink of an eye, the entire mountain collapsed completely, as if a huge ice block had melted. Then, a huge blood pool appeared at the bottom of the mountain. The blood pool was turbulent, and the scarlet blood rolled. The surface of the blood pool was intertwined with human faces, and they could even vaguely hear a horrifying roar coming from it. Lin Tian and Shui, Whooshing Crocodile, and little Taichu all trembled. In an instant, the temperature of the entire space plummeted at an alarming rate. Even the sky had become blood-red due to the appearance of the pool of blood. An extremely sinister presence of blood radiated outwards, causing the entire taining ancient land to shake violently. Moreover, the blood aura spread out here, and countless creatures trembled in fear. As this aura spread out, not only did the countless creatures in calm peace ancient land tremble, but even the other regions outside the ancient land were greatly affected. Many powerful existences were moved at this moment, and they all looked at calm peace ancient land from afar. Calm Prefecture, this blood aura. Could it be the blood pool of hell? In the celestial realm, countless powerful existences were moved. Beams of divine light instantly cut through the sky and rushed toward calm peace ancient land. Chapter 1596. The ancient land of peaceful peace shook violently. The huge pool of blood churned, and waves of blood soared into the sky, dyeing the sky red. A bloody and murderous aura that seemed to be able to corrode everything in the world intertwined, mixed with a shocking gloominess. Lin Tian and Shui, whooshing crocodile, and little Taichu couldn't help but shudder. This aura was really too terrifying. Retreat! Lin Tian wrapped in Shui, whooshing crocodile, and little Taichu with a golden divine light, and retreated tens of thousands of feet away at once. That pool of blood made him feel like the source of death. Rumble. Looking from tens of thousands of feet away, the pool of blood churned even more violently in front of them. Everything around it was corroded, and blood-shaped human faces appeared on the surface of the pool of blood, giving off an incomparably terrifying and eerie feeling. What is this? Whooshing crocodile felt its scalp go numb. It didn't expect that the strange mountain that Lin Tian mentioned before was actually so strange. No, it should be called terrifying. Looking at the pool of blood, it felt a sharp pain in its divine soul, as if it would shatter in the next moment. Lin Tian was also shocked. It was hard to imagine what kind of pool of blood this was. It seemed like countless lives had been annihilated in it, as if it could easily destroy everything. Hell's blood pool? And Shui's pupils constricted. Hearing her words, Lin Tian's face suddenly showed a trace of surprise. He tilted his head and looked at her. Hell's blood pool? Do you know what it is? At the same time, whooshing crocodile and little Taichu also looked at Shui with a surprised expression. I know a little. And Shui took a deep breath and said, since ancient times, it's said that there's a huge pool of blood in the immortal realm that fell out of hell. It's called the Hell's Blood Pool, and it contains endless power. If you can extract the infinite power from it, you can easily dominate the immortal realm. As she spoke, she looked at the pool of blood in front of them. According to the description of the Hell's Blood Pool in the ancient books I read, this pool of blood in front of us is very similar to it. Or it's exactly the same. This should be the Hell's Blood Pool. I didn't expect this pool of blood to fall and be buried in this small peaceful peace prefecture. Lin Tian and the five-element crocodile could not help but be startled when they heard this. Even little Alpha Origin could not help but open his eyes wide. Hell's blood pool? Fall out of hell? This? Lin Tian's eyes flickered. Back in the 10 Directions heaven, he, whooshing crocodile, and little Taichu in the sacred egg accidentally entered the extreme Yin Temple. It was said that the extreme Yin Temple floated out of hell. He didn't expect this pool of blood to also fall out of hell. After a pause, he looked at Shui and asked another question. Shui, does hell really exist? According to legend, the extreme Yin Temple floated out of hell. Back then, he and whooshing crocodile accidentally entered the extreme Yin Temple and saw things like the bridge of helplessness and the river of forgetfulness. They even saw the book of life and death. It was very similar to hell in the folklore. However, he still couldn't confirm whether hell really existed, and there were many doubts in his heart. Now, he heard Shui mention that the pool of blood in this place fell out of hell. Moreover, Shui was born in the immortal region and grew up until now. He definitely knew much more than he and whooshing crocodile. Therefore, at this time, he couldn't help but ask this question because he really cared about this matter. Hearing this question, Whooshing Crocodile couldn't help but look at Shui. Obviously, he was also very concerned about this matter. Yes, it does exist. And Shui nodded and gave an affirmative answer. This, Lin Tian's eyes flickered slightly. At this time, Shui, who was born in the immortal region, told him with such certainty that hell really existed. Coupled with the things like the bridge of helplessness and the river of forgetfulness that he saw in the extreme Yin Temple, and the book of life and death that he saw in the extreme Yin Temple, he no longer doubted the existence of hell. Hell really existed between heaven and earth. It really exists. At the side, Whooshing Crocodile also revealed a shocked expression. After a pause, he took a deep breath and asked in Shui, "Then, is the hell that exists between heaven and earth the same as the hell in folklore?" And Shui shook his head. "It's not quite the same. The real hell is similar to the hell in the mortal world, but there are also many differences. The real hell is a large world, the most mysterious and strange large world." A large world? Hell is a large world? Then where does it exist? Is it boundless underground? Whooshing Crocodile was surprised. How could it exist underground? That's a strange saying in the mortal world. And Shui rolled his eyes and said, "The real hell is said to have no fixed location. It always floats in the chaotic space and time, and it's impossible to find it with normal methods." As she spoke, she added, "Moreover, like the netherworld, it was also destroyed a long time ago." Destroyed? Lin Tian and the others were shocked again. Hell was actually destroyed by someone? And Shui nodded and said, "According to the descriptions in the ancient books, in the most ancient era, there were several world-destroying battles that really changed the world. Many large worlds were destroyed because of this, and hell was one of them." This is really... Lin Tian and the others' eyes couldn't help but flicker a little. Whoosh! 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 Suddenly, the sound of air breaking rang out one after another. With this place as the center, as far as the eye could see, one figure after another rushed over from all directions. The essence, qi, and spirit they exuded were incomparably powerful, and the immortal aura was so thick that it was terrifying. These people, Lin Tian's expression changed. These figures were all powerhouses, and he even saw immortal king-level existences among them. And Shui said, "Didn't I say before that the Hell's Blood Pool contains boundless power? If the boundless power could be extracted from it, it would be enough to easily dominate the immortal realm. Now that the Hell's Blood Pool has appeared in this place, many important figures in the immortal realm naturally sensed its aura." At this time, a group of important figures jumped out and rushed over to the Hell's Blood Pool. They all want to obtain the boundless power contained in the Hell's Blood Pool. Isn't the peaceful ancient land controlled by the 10 great sects like the Purple Shao treasure sect? Only the disciples of the 10 great treasure sects are qualified to enter. How do these people get in? Whooshing Crocodile frowned. Lin Tian glanced at it from the corner of his eyes. Is your brain short-circuited? Which of those who rushed to this place at this time were weak? There are even immortal king-level existences. With such a large group of forces gathered together, why would they care about the 10 great treasure sects? Whooshing Crocodile immediately blushed with shame. It really felt like its brain was short-circuited to ask such a question. Whoosh! 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 More and more figures rushed over. Not a single one of them was weak. Their combined strength was simply a bit terrifying. Boom! These people were all surging with vitality. Their essence, qi, and spirit were so strong that it was a little scary. They stared at the Hell's Blood Pool, and their eyes flickered with a bright light. Many people attacked one after another, using powerful supernatural powers to carefully explore the Hell's Blood Pool. Some even bombarded the Hell's Blood Pool. Just like Shui said before, they wanted to find the boundless power in the Hell's Blood Pool. Lin Tian and the others looked at the blood pool from afar. There, the divine power of many powerhouses surged around their bodies, and it was frighteningly thick. Should we go and explore the blood pool as well? If we can find the legendary boundless power in the blood pool, then we'll make a fortune. And Shui stared ahead. Not going. Lin Tian shook his head and said, those who are exploring the blood pool ahead are all far stronger than us. It's obviously not a good thing to run over and compete with those people to explore the blood pool. If we provoke some of them and they attack us, we won't be able to stop them. Of course, the most important thing is that it's something that fell from hell. It's best not to have anything to do with it. Subconsciously, he felt that it was better to stay away from things related to hell. It was too dangerous. Lord Crocodile thinks so too, Wuxing Crocodile said. He agreed with Lin Tian's decision this time. Even though he learned from Shui that the Hell's Blood Pool had the power to dominate the immortal realm, he was not tempted at all at this time because the blood pool was related to hell. Lin Tian nodded and said, let's go. The farther we retreat, the better. He called out to Shui, Wuxing Crocodile, and Little Taichu, and casually went in a direction and went far away. Boom! Suddenly, the sky shook violently, and the earth trembled, causing the two people and two beasts who were walking in the distance to tremble together. This peaceful ancient land, which was originally a little dim, became even dimmer at this moment. Then, the entire place became pitch black. Fierce winds swept across the space in all directions, and the air temperature dropped rapidly. As far as the eye could see, billowing dark clouds gathered in the sky in the blink of an eye. An extremely oppressive aura instantly spread to every corner of this world, as if an apocalyptic heavenly tribulation was about to descend. With a rumbling sound, the sky shook violently again. Between the billowing dark clouds, the solid void of the immortal realm suddenly cracked open. Endless dark clouds rolled out, boiling like the waves of the vast sea. Immediately, in the next moment, a vast and boundless palace emerged in the dark clouds. It was eerie as if it was the ultimate kingdom of death. Extreme Een Palace. Lin Tian's expression changed. Back then, he and Wuxing Crocodile had entered Extreme Een Palace once, and it was filled with the aura of death and all kinds of dangers. Even though he had reached the true immortal realm now, thinking about it now, he still felt that this Extreme Een Palace was extremely frightening. He didn't expect that the Extreme Een Palace, which he thought of when he asked Shui questions about hell, would suddenly pop out like this and appear in this place. And Shui, Wuxing Crocodile, and Little Taichu were also shocked by the appearance of Extreme Een Palace. F***CK. Why did this damn thing come to this place? Wuxing Crocodile couldn't help but curse. Then, he looked at the blood pool in front of him and said, did it come here because of this blood pool that also fell from hell? Chapter 1597. Dark clouds rolled in the sky. An extremely dense Een-chi surged. It was a terrifying sight to behold. The gigantic Extreme Een Temple stretched across the sky, emerging from the chaotic space-time. Instantly, everyone was shocked. Extreme Een Temple came for the Hell's Blood Pool? Beside the Hell's Blood Pool, a group of important figures who were exploring the Hell's Blood Pool looked at the temple in the sky, their expressions all changing. Obviously, these people all knew of the existence of Extreme Een Temple, and they knew how terrifying it was. Even some of the immortal kings among them had very serious expressions. In the distance, Lin Tian and the others looked at Extreme Een Temple, and their hearts naturally palpitated. Let's go! Lin Tiandao called out to Shui, Wuxing Crocodile, and Little Taichu, and they retreated into the distance as quickly as possible. He knew how terrifying this Extreme Een Temple was. It was definitely an ominous forbidden area. Go, go, go! Wuxing Crocodile howled, and his speed was also very fast. Even Shui, who had been thinking about the majestic power in the Hell's Blood Pool, felt the wind beneath his feet at this time. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The two people and two crocodiles were extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, they had rushed very far away. It was also at this time that Extreme Een Temple in the sky trembled slightly, and even more dark clouds and Een mist seeped out from the pitch-black temple. The sky shook, and a formless and terrifying power spread out from within Extreme Een Temple, falling to the ground like rain. In an instant, it caused the ancient land of peaceful peace to howl furiously. Strands of black lightning intertwined, and because of this, the space became chaotic, rippling like water. Huge spatial cracks appeared one after another, swallowing everything around them. Lin Tian immediately felt a chill on his scalp. He was all too familiar with this scene. When he had encountered extreme Temple in the 10 Directions Sky Domain, something similar had happened. At that time, he whooshing crocodile and the others were directly sucked into extreme Temple because of this. "Don't get sucked in," he shouted in a low voice and immediately propped up a powerful divine power to protect his body. A rich, true, immortal aura spread out in all directions. And Shui, whooshing crocodile, and little Taichu naturally also activated protective light barriers at the first possible moment. All kinds of divine light interweaved, and Tao power also surged. While dodging the huge spatial cracks around them, they also fled further away. However, the 2 humans and 2 beasts trembled at the same time. More cracks appeared in their surroundings. Moreover, a terrifying power surged out from within. It was as if an invisible hand had landed on them, causing them to feel as if they had fallen into a swamp in the blink of an eye. Their mobility was greatly weakened and restricted. A powerful force pulled them toward a nearby, pitch-black crevice. It was as if there was a peerless ghost emperor residing within, wanting to devour them. "Oh my God! Don't get sucked in!" Whooshing crocodile howled. It used all its strength to activate its true immortal demonic power, creating balls of dazzling divine light. Lin Tian and the others naturally used all their strength as well. They wanted to break free from the terrifying suction force coming from the pitch-black crevice. However, they realized that it was useless. Even though they were true immortals and powerhouses, they could not do anything about the suction force. In the end, they could not even move a finger. They were directly suppressed by the invisible force that overflowed from the black crevice. Buzz! Around them, black spatial cracks interweaved, and the number of them increased. From each spatial crack, a dark and gloomy fog surged out. It was as if they were all space-time portals that led to hell. It was eerie and frightening. Lin Tian and Shui, whooshing crocodile, and little Taichu struggled and resisted with all their might. However, it was useless. They were beginning to be pulled into a black spatial crack by the invisible force that overflowed from the pitch-black crevice. In the end, the 2 people and 2 beasts were pulled into the black spatial crack amidst whooshing crocodile's wail. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared without a trace. Almost at the same time, other places in peaceful ancient land were also covered with huge spatial cracks. One after another, cultivators were pulled into the cracks. Walala! The blood pool in hell roiled. On the surface of the pool, there were many human-shaped ghost faces. At this time, waves of blood surged into the black spatial cracks. In the blink of an eye, the entire blood pool in hell disappeared without a trace. Moreover, at the same time, near the blood pool in hell, the important figures of the immortal region could not resist the suction force from the spatial cracks that appeared around them. In the blink of an eye, they were all pulled into the cracks and disappeared in an instant. It was even to the extent that the entire calm plane was shaking at this moment. Black cracks appeared in many places, sucking in living beings one after another. Many living beings on the plane trembled in fear. They were all horrified. "What the hell is this? Open for me! Open for me! Damn it!" Many cultivators roared. Their divine abilities were useless, and their physical strength was also ineffective. One by one, they were sucked into the spatial cracks. Boundless darkness appeared in his field of vision. Lin Tian could not see or feel anything. Only after several dozen breaths had passed did the boundless space of darkness tremble. A wave of energy swept out, directly throwing him out. He stepped on solid ground again. Around him, the space was dark and gloomy. The air was somewhat cold. What entered his eyes were broken dark mountains, like true dragons that had been cut down on the ground. Extreme Temple, he could not help but smile bitterly. Without a doubt, With such an environment and such a gloomy aura, this place was definitely within extreme Een Temple. After so many years, he was forcefully pulled into this death temple again. Yeah, the little Taichu's voice sounded. It was right beside him, scanning the dark space left and right. And Shui and Whooshing Crocodile were also beside him. At this time, they were somewhat stunned. After a few breaths, Whooshing Crocodile could not help but howl and curse. Yin was pulled in again. Lin Tian was depressed. Extreme Een Temple intersected in chaotic space. It was said that it only appeared once every few thousand years. But now, in just a few short decades, they had encountered extreme Een Temple twice in a row and been pulled in. It was simply too unlucky. Beside him, and Shui also had a sad expression. She guessed that they were currently in extreme Een Temple, but when she heard Whooshing Crocodile's words, she could not help but widen her eyes. We were pulled in again? She clearly knew about extreme Een Temple. She glared at Whooshing Crocodile, then looked at Lin Tian and asked, "Before this, you were pulled in once?" "A few decades ago, we were pulled in once." Lin Tian on Dao. Whooshing Crocodile ground his teeth, crying with a crocodile face. "I've really had 8 lifetimes of bloody bad luck. Don't screw me over like this." And Shui widened her eyes when she heard this. "You really came in once? You didn't die last time?" she said in shock. 3 black lines appeared on Lin Tian's forehead. He raised his hand and gave her a hard knock. What did she mean by, "You didn't die last time"? Did she know how to speak properly? And Shui rubbed her forehead where she had been knocked. Then she took a deep breath and said, "According to the ancient legends, although hell was destroyed back then, some of its most important divine palaces were still preserved. Extreme Een Temple is the most central, most dangerous, and most terrifying divine palace in hell. It can be said to be the holy palace of hell. After you entered Extreme Een Temple, it was actually able to come out alive. This is practically a miracle." This was the first time she had seen Extreme Een Temple and the first time she had been pulled in. However, she was very familiar with it, because the ancient records of the celestial realm could be traced back to an incomparably long time ago. She had read various legends about Extreme Een Temple in the ancient records, so she knew how terrifying Extreme Een Temple was. Even celestial kings would find it difficult to survive if they were pulled in. However, Lin Tian and the others had actually been pulled into Extreme Een Temple once several decades ago, and had even walked out alive. This truly shocked her. Hearing her words, Lin Tian nodded and said, "What you said is indeed correct. It was indeed a miracle that we were able to leave Extreme Een Temple alive back then. We were just a little lucky." When they had been pulled into Extreme Een Temple, if it hadn't been for an extremely terrifying stone coffin rushing in, and the battle with the Book of Life and Death in the depths of Extreme Een Temple's heavenly palace of death, causing a corner of Extreme Een Temple to crumble, revealing the path to the outside world, he and Whooshing Crocodile would definitely have died in Extreme Een Temple. After saying this, he paused for a moment, and then asked in Shui, "Previously, you said that Extreme Een Temple is the most central and most important divine palace in hell. What other important divine palaces are there?" And Shui mentioned hell's various divine palaces, so he was naturally curious about them. Beside him, Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu also turned to look at Shui. Clearly, they were also very curious about this point. And Shui said, "According to the ancient records, there are 11 divine palaces in hell, and Extreme Een Temple is the most important one. As the central divine palace, it controls everything in hell. The other 10 divine palaces are Fetal Light Palace, Refreshing Palace, Serene Essence Palace, Corpse Dog Palace, Subduing Arrow Palace, Sparrow Shadow Palace, Residual Heart Palace, Filthy Evil Palace, and Extreme Desire Palace. Fetal Light Palace, Refreshing Palace, Serene Essence Palace, Corpse Dog Palace, Subduing Arrow Palace, Sparrow Shadow Palace, Residual Heart Palace, Filthy Evil Palace, Extreme Desire Palace." Lin Tian frowned. He was slightly moved and asked, "These 10 divine palaces, are they related to the 3 souls and 7 spirits?" He had once read some Taoist scriptures that recorded that living creatures had 3 souls and 7 spirits. The 3 souls were called fetal light, refreshing spirit, and serene essence. The 7 spirits were called corpse dog, subduing arrow, sparrow shadow, seizing thief, non-poison, filth removal, and stinky lung. Among them, non-poison, filth removal, and stinky lung were also called residual heart soul, filthy evil soul, and extreme desire soul in some unofficial records. In this way, among the 11 divine palaces of hell, except for extreme temple, the names of the other 10 divine palaces were completely based on the 3 souls and 7 spirits of living creatures. Was there any special meaning in this? Yes, it is indeed related. And Shui nodded and said, living creatures have 3 souls and 7 spirits. This is known to all. The 3 souls and 7 spirits of ordinary living creatures are called the soul when combined together. However, when cultivators reach a certain level, the 3 souls and 7 spirits will condense into the divine soul, also known as the materialization of the soul. In other words, whether it is the soul of an ordinary living creature or the divine soul of a powerful cultivator, other than the difference between the weak and the strong, they are all made up of 3 souls and 7 spirits. Each soul and spirit is incomparably important. If any soul or spirit is missing, or if any soul or spirit is damaged, it will cause a living creature to suffer unimaginable damage. Chapter 1598. Hearing in Shui's words, Lin Tian couldn't help but be shocked. Among the 11 halls of hell, other than the extreme hall, the other hall masters had special abilities that could directly control, interfere with, and destroy the 3 souls and 7 spirits of all living beings. This, he couldn't help but frown. The most important things for ordinary living beings were the soul and origin, while the most important things for powerful cultivators were the soul and origin. Regardless of whether it was the soul of an ordinary living being or the soul of a powerful cultivator, they were all made up of 3 souls and 7 spirits. The ability of the 10 hall masters of hell to separately control, interfere with, and even destroy the 3 souls and 7 spirits was truly terrifying. It could be said that the ability of the 10 hall masters was the ability to directly attack the life spring. They were born for destruction. Then, what about the hall master of the extreme hall? He asked. The extreme hall. And Shui said, the hall master of the extreme hall is said to be far more powerful than the hall masters of the other 10 halls. You could say that he is the master of hell. It is said that he is a true living fossil in the greater world. It is very difficult to say exactly how powerful he is. The ancient records only describe him with one word, very terrifying. Whooshing Crocodile paused, then said, are the hall master of the extreme hall and the other 10 hall masters still alive? Hell had been destroyed back then, so it was very curious whether the hall masters of the 11 halls were still alive. How would I know? And Shui rolled her eyes and said, it would have been best if all of them had died in that chaotic era. After all, according to the records in the ancient books, none of those existences were kind, and each of them had the power to truly destroy the heavens and the earth. This was especially so for the hall master of the extreme temple, who was also the lord of hell. He was the most terrifying, and it was easy for him to destroy the entire celestial realm by himself. If those living fossils still existed in the world, they would definitely be a huge problem. So powerful? Lin Tian frowned. The immortal domain was vast and boundless, and it was incomparably sturdy. He couldn't imagine how terrifying it was to be able to easily destroy the immortal domain. Nonsense. How can be said to be one of the oldest large worlds? How could the 11 rulers of such a large world be weak? And Shui said. Then she shook her head fiercely and said, don't worry about that. The most important thing now is to think about how to get out of here. She pulled a long face. Why am I being dragged here? This is the great, ominous territory. I'm still so young and in my prime. I don't want to die here. Lin Tian looked around and agreed with Shui. At this time, The most important thing was to find a way out. The last time you came to Extreme Hall, how did you get out? Do you still remember the way? Follow that path and walk out again. And Shui looked at Lin Tiandao. That path leads to the heavenly palace of death in the depths of Extreme Hall. I don't even know where we are right now. Lin Tiandao said. Moreover, that path was accidentally blasted open by a powerful force. It probably doesn't exist anymore. Even if it does, we can't go there. It's too dangerous. If we really go there, we'll definitely die. When he walked into the depths of the heavenly palace of death, he was only in the virtue realm. Now he was in the true immortal realm, and his strength was many times stronger than before. However, it was also because of this that when he thought back to that time, he could clearly feel the terror of that place in the depths of the heavenly palace of death. That place even had a terrifying ancient object like the Book of Life and Death, which had the power to destroy all things in the world. At that time, if that terrifying sarcophagus hadn't suddenly barged in and fought with the Book of Life and Death, which accidentally broke through a corner of the heavenly palace of death and led to the outside world, he and Whooshing Crocodile would definitely have died in the depths of the heavenly palace of death. They wouldn't have been able to walk out of that place alive. Therefore, he didn't dare to go there now. That place was incomparably terrifying. In addition, if the Book of Life and Death hadn't been destroyed in the battle with the sarcophagus and returned to that place, then that place would be the source of destruction and death. Even a god would definitely be destroyed by the Book of Life and Death, let alone a few true immortals like them. He scanned the dark mountain and said, "Let's start our search from here. Be careful and try to find it as soon as possible." Boom! Suddenly, the dark mountain they were on shook. The ground cracked inch by inch, and waves of Inchi rushed out. The ground cracked open, and armored ancient soldiers stepped out from the ground, exuding an extremely strong aura of death. They were either holding ancient swords, battle spears, or bronze halberds. As soon as they rushed out, they stared at Lin Tian and the others. The ancient swords, battle spears, and bronze halberds all pierced toward the two men and two beasts. Clang! The sound of weapons clanged, accompanied by cold Inchi and the aura of death. It was as if they could crush everything, bringing about layers of Inchi. Lin Tian and the others retreated and dodged together. They're dead. There's no need to fight with them. Retreat. Lin Tianandao. At this time, it was more important to find a way out. If it wasn't necessary, they would try not to fight with these armored soldiers. That was because there was no real meaning to it. It was purely a waste of divine power. Lord Crocodile thinks so too, Whooshing Crocodile said. Immediately, the two men and two beasts dodged and retreated. Soon, they were far away, shaking off all the armored soldiers from before. Boom! 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 In front of them, divine power surged. It was extremely shocking. As far as the eye could see, there were many human figures not far away. They were obviously the cultivators of the immortal region who had been absorbed by the extreme Yin Temple. There were about 1,000 of them. At this moment, they were fighting with a group of armored soldiers. Divine power and Yin Qi intertwined. Ah! The screams were ear-piercing. There were too many armored soldiers in that place. There were at least 10,000 of them. Compared to the number of human cultivators there, they occupied an absolute advantage. In the blink of an eye, dozens of true immortals were killed. The process of being killed was very strange and terrifying. As long as the cultivators were slashed or pierced by the ancient weapons in the hands of the armored soldiers, no matter which part of the body was slashed or pierced, they would die within dozens of breaths, as if they had been poisoned by an extremely terrifying poison. What was even more strange was that the dead cultivators, in the next few breaths, would rush out of their bodies. Then, the Yin Qi would transform into the armor of death, turning them into new, undead armored soldiers. They would become the undead slaughtering soldiers. They would stand up and attack other living human cultivators. Their combat strength was even stronger than when they were alive. Seeing this scene, and Shui opened his eyes wide, stunned. Lin Tian and Wuxing Crocodile were astonished. They were also shocked by this scene. Several decades ago, when they entered the extreme Yin Temple, they had seen cultivators who had lost their souls and were drawn to the depths of the heavenly palace of death. Then, they were covered by strands of Yin Qi. The Yin Qi transformed into armor and ancient weapons, turning the cultivators who were drawn there into undead armored soldiers. And now, they had never thought that these ordinary armored soldiers would be able to kill them and turn them into new undead armored soldiers. It wasn't this exaggerated back then. When we first entered this place, the armored soldiers we encountered were far from this powerful. Furthermore, even if we were injured or pierced through by the ancient weapons they held, we would definitely not die. We would even turn into new, undead armored soldiers. But now, Wuxing Crocodile was shocked. Could it be that these armored soldiers in the extreme Yin Temple had evolved? They actually had such a terrifying ability. Clang! The ear-piercing sound of weapons reverberated. Behind them, the sounds of weapons rang out. Those armored soldiers who attacked them before had chased them all the way here and attacked them again. They caught up really quickly. Lin Tian called out to Shui, Wuxing Crocodile, and little Taichu to evade. His expression became serious as he said, "You must not be injured by them. Use your divine power to protect yourself as much as possible." After arriving here and seeing the cultivators who were pierced by the armored soldiers, they died in the blink of an eye and turned into new, undead armored soldiers. Even he felt a chill run down his spine. Clang! 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 The sounds of weapons were ear-piercing. There were quite a few armored soldiers chasing after them. There were at least several dozen of them, and each of them was wrapped in an extremely terrifying aura of death. The ancient weapons in their hands were clanging. At this time, they were all aimed at Lin Tian and Shui, Wuxing Crocodile, and little Taichu. Moreover, at the same time, there were also several dozen armored soldiers in front of them. They held ancient spears and pierced towards the two humans and two beasts. Lin Tian frowned, being attacked from the front and back. At this time, it was no longer possible to simply dodge. He had to make a move. He formed a seal with one hand and activated the 5 heaven-shaking lightning art. Silver lightning immediately spread out. Bang! 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 The 5 heaven-shaking lightning art was strong and strong. It was extremely effective against Yin and evil existences. Immediately, several armored soldiers were sent flying more than 1,000 feet away. At the same time, Shui, Wuxing Crocodile, and little Taichu also made a move. Each of them sent several armored soldiers flying. Ah! Screams echoed. This place was a very spacious flatland. The soil was crimson red, and there were many small blood puddles. One cultivator after another was pierced by the armored soldiers and died. Then, they turned into new armored soldiers and stood up to attack the other human cultivators who were still alive. In the short span of a quarter of an hour, more than half of the 1,000 cultivators in this place had died. However, the number of armored soldiers did not decrease. Instead, it increased a little. Leave this area, Lin Tian on Dao. There were too many armored soldiers in this place. Even if they were very strong, if they continued to stay here, it was very likely that they would be in trouble. And Shui, Wuxing Crocodile, and little Taichu all nodded. They broke through the place with the least armored soldiers and wanted to leave this place. Boom! It was also at this time that the flatland shook violently. The ground collapsed, and 2 giant figures stepped out from the ground accompanied by rolling Yin Qi. They were both more than 10 feet tall. One of the giant figures had the head of an ox and held a pair of stone axes covered with ancient runes. The other one had the face of a horse and was wrapped in a pitch-black chain that seemed to be able to trap immortals and gods. Lin Tian and the others' expressions changed. Ox head and horse face. Chapter 1599. 2 figures that were over 10 feet tall stepped out from the ground. One had the head of an ox, while the other had the face of a horse. Their compatibility caused Lin Tian and the others to feel their hearts skip a beat. They were exactly the same as the legendary Oxhead and Horseface. At the same time, the other cultivators on the plains felt a chill in their hearts. The cultivators were all trembling. Originally, the tens of thousands of terrifying armored soldiers had already caused these cultivators to feel a chill down their spines. However, they did not expect that at this time, another two huge figures would rush out. They were exactly the same as the legendary Oxhead and Horseface. Roar! Oxhead and Horseface rushed out, roaring like wild beasts. The huge Oxhead figure waved its two axes, bringing out a large amount of black light. In the blink of an eye, it enveloped dozens of true, immortal cultivators. Ah! The cultivators who were enveloped by the black light screamed. Their bodies were not damaged, but they lost consciousness in an instant. They fell to the ground with a bang. A large amount of light was produced, enveloping these cultivators. In the blink of an eye, the chi turned into armor, and these cultivators turned into new armored soldiers. Whoosh! The iron chain swayed. The huge horseface figure shook the black chain on its body. The chain rushed out like a pitch-black python. Its speed was extremely fast, and in an instant, it pierced through dozens of cultivators. Just like the armored soldiers, the bodies of the cultivators who were pierced did not shatter. They died in the blink of an eye. Then, chi floated out from their bodies, and these cultivators turned into new armored soldiers. Lin Tian frowned. The armored soldiers and Oxhead and Horseface in hell did not seem to have any consciousness. However, what they were doing seemed to be increasing the number of armored soldiers. At the same time, and Shui and Whooshing Crocodile naturally noticed this as well. They could not help but feel surprised. Whoosh! The sound of the chain shaking could be heard. The huge horseface figure waved the pitch-black chain, and at this time, it pierced towards Lin Tian and the others. The black chain's strength was astonishing, and its speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of the two men and two beasts. Lin Tian used the High Heaven Sword manual and slashed out a divine sword light to meet the chain. Clang! When the two collided, a metallic clang rang out. Lin Tian's sword light was directly shattered. Moreover, Lin Tian himself also trembled and staggered back several hundred meters. However, the black chain still pressed down on him without slowing down. This caused Lin Tian's expression to change. He used the divining divine technique, and dozens of divining divine elephants appeared, charging towards the black chains. At the same time, and Shui, Five Elements Crocodile, and Little Grand Primordium also attacked together. Each of them unleashed their divine arts at Blacklock. However, the giant horseface shadow's black chain was too terrifying. It shattered everything in an instant and was almost unstoppable. I can't block it. Dodge! Lin Tian shouted. As soon as he finished speaking, he and Shui, Whooshing Crocodile, and Little Taichu all shifted their positions at the same time, narrowly avoiding the black chain that the horseface shadow swung at them. However, some of the other cultivators couldn't avoid it. Many of them were penetrated. They first let out ear-piercing screams, and then turned into armored soldiers in the blink of an eye. This is simply, Whooshing Crocodile trembled. The horseface shadow was too terrifying. There was no way to block it. It was impossible to block it. Buzz! The great void rumbled. At this time, the giant horseface shadow, which was more than 10 meters tall, waved its two axes at the same time. When the axes landed on the ground, a large area of the ground was shattered. At the same time, dense dark light rose from the ground, like the Milky Way rain rushing from the ground to the sky. Suddenly, screams were heard. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of cultivators were penetrated by the dark light. The light of consciousness in their eyes disappeared without a trace in a few breaths. Then, the dark chi intertwined and condensed into armor outside these cultivators' bodies. Hundreds of cultivators turned into armored soldiers in the blink of an eye. They became puppets and pounced on the other cultivators who were still alive. What is going on? Ah! Shrill cries reverberated. Oxhead, Horseface, and the 10,000 armored soldiers attacked. In the blink of an eye, all the cultivators here, apart from Lin Tian and Shui, five elements crocodile, and little grand primordium, had turned into armored soldiers. Suddenly, the giant horse-faced shadow, and the tens of thousands of armored soldiers all stared at the two people and two beasts. They didn't have self-consciousness. They were like simple killing machines, directly pouncing on the two people and two beasts. When the densely packed figures merged together, the aura of death was vast and mighty. They rushed over from different directions, completely freezing the space around the two humans and two beasts. The gloomy and bone-chilling aura made the two humans and two beasts tremble. At the same time, the giant horse-faced shadow also stepped forward, and the giant axes and black chains pressed down together. This made the two people and two beasts' internal organs feel cold. Even if they worked together, they couldn't block this kind of attack. "Come out!" Lin Tian shouted in a low voice. He quickly formed a seal, and a large dark blue vortex appeared beside him. "Roar! Roar!" A deafening roar rang out. In the large blue vortex in front of him, ferocious beasts rushed out one after another. Each of them exuded a powerful aura of a golden immortal. In the blink of an eye, thousands of them rushed out and immediately pounced on the armored soldiers. Suddenly, the tens of thousands of armored soldiers were all shaken and sent flying by the thousands of golden, immortal, fierce beasts. Lin Tian and the others suddenly felt relieved. They moved as fast as they could to avoid the attacks of the horse-faced and ox-headed shadow. That was close. If Lin Tian didn't happen to control the primitive emperor token and can summon the powerful primitive demon beast from it, we would have all been killed. Whooshing Crocodile shuddered. It was really dangerous just now. Those armored soldiers were very strong. Coupled with the attack of the horse-faced and ox-headed shadow, it was simply an unsolvable situation. Not to mention the four genuine immortals. Even a golden immortal would definitely fall. "Go!" Lin Tiandao. At this time, while the thousands of golden immortal fierce beasts summoned from the primitive emperor token were holding back the tens of thousands of armored soldiers and the horse-faced shadow, he called in Shui, Whooshing Crocodile, and Little Taichu, and directly fled to the distance, away from this place. Then, after a long distance, he willed the thousands of golden immortal fierce beasts back into the primitive emperor token. They were very fast. After dozens of breaths, they crossed hundreds of miles and entered a vast, ancient forest. Is it really the legendary Extreme Een Temple? What should we do? Legend has it that the Extreme Een Temple floated out of hell. Once you are involved, it is almost impossible to walk out alive. The environment of this ancient forest was gloomy. Like the plain before, there were many cultivators, and all of them had ugly expressions. Some of them were cultivators who had come to train in the peaceful ancient region, while most of them were ordinary cultivators on the peaceful ancient region. They had all been busy with their own matters, but when the Extreme Een Hall appeared, they were all swept up in it. Lin Tian and the others came here and looked at these cultivators, but they did not care. Every time this ghost temple appears, it will involve a large number of creatures, and in the end, only a few can walk out alive. Whooshing Crocodile cursed. Lin Tian shook his head and glanced at this ancient forest. There were quite a few plants in this ancient forest. Their branches were pitch black, and their leaves were blood red. They looked a bit horrifying, as if they had been watered with blood. As the leaves swayed, sinister whimpering sounds could be heard. What kind of stupid trees are they? They seem to have become spirits. Whooshing Crocodile cursed again. Among them, a group of cultivators was looking for a way out in twos and threes. In the blink of an eye, dozens of breaths passed. Ah! Suddenly, there was a scream. Not far away, the branches of a large tree swayed and suddenly penetrated a well-built cultivator's body, causing him to lose consciousness in the blink of an eye. Then, blood-red Een Chi sprang out of the ancient tree's branches and enveloped the cultivator, causing armor to quickly form outside his body. However, this armor was different from the armor of the armored soldiers Lin Tian and the others had encountered before. It was a glaring blood red, and it exuded a more shocking aura of death. Lin Tianyi and the others were shocked. F***CK. These ancient trees really have become spirits? Whooshing Crocodile widened his eyes and said, "Moreover, that person was a golden immortal. How could he be so easily? Be careful." Lin Tiandao raised his guard against the blood-red plants around him. At the same time, the expressions of the other cultivators in this place also changed. "There's something strange about these trees," someone shouted. It was also at this time that the blood-colored ancient trees in the mountain range began to sway as if they were alive. Their branches stretched out and swept towards the surrounding cultivators. In the blink of an eye, they had pierced through dozens of cultivators. Without exception, these dozens of cultivators all died in the blink of an eye, just like the golden immortal cultivator. Then, blood-red Inchi floated out of the ancient tree's branches and condensed into blood-red armor outside the bodies of these cultivators, turning them into armored soldiers. Then, these cultivators who had turned into blood-red armored soldiers pounced on the other cultivators like puppets. No matter what is injured in here, it will turn into armored soldiers. Whooshing Crocodile felt a chill run down his spine. Lin Tian also frowned. Judging from the scene before him, it seemed to be true. Could it be that there's still a big shot alive in hell who's manipulating something? That was what he thought. Wung sounds rumbled through the air. At this moment, the blood trees swayed one after another. Dense branches reached towards their group. He did not let his guard down. He immediately used all his strength to support the high heaven sword scripture and slashed out dense sword lights horizontally. At the same time, and Shui, Whooshing Crocodile, and Little Taichu also made their moves. Each of them used their powerful divine abilities and secret techniques. The two humans and two beasts were very powerful. When they attacked together, their divine power could be said to be very intimidating. However, the branches of the blood-red ancient trees here were too tough. The divine abilities and secret techniques they used could not hurt these blood-red ancient trees at all. As the blood-red plants extended, all the divine abilities of the two humans and two beasts were destroyed in the blink of an eye. They continued to attack the two humans and two beasts at a very fast speed, as if they were hunting prey. "Try to dodge and leave immediately," Lin Tian said in a low voice. These ancient trees were too unusual. Immediately, the two humans and two beasts moved as fast as they could and rushed out of the ancient forest. Whoosh! 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 The sound of air being torn apart was ear-piercing. The blood-red branches of the ancient trees attacked the two humans and two beasts again like long whips. Chapter 1600. Black hurricanes suddenly swept out. Every one of them was shockingly large and carried an extremely eerie aura. They caused the firm void to distort. Following these black hurricanes, huge black vortexes were born, swallowing everything in their path. In the blink of an eye, the cultivators in this ancient forest were swept into the vortexes formed by the black hurricanes and disappeared without a trace. "They swallowed us?" Whooshing Crocodile was shocked. "They're coming!" And Shui shouted. There were many black hurricanes, and the Yin aura was extremely dense. At this moment, many of them swept towards Lin Tian and the others. At the same time, the blood-red ancient trees in this ancient forest also attacked the two people and two beasts with their branches. "Watch out!" Lin Tian shouted. He immediately activated his true immortal level cultivation to the maximum and used a divine technique to attack in all directions. And Shui, Whooshing Crocodile, and Little Taichu next to him attacked together. 3 different types of divine light spread out in all directions. Boom! At this moment, the two people and two beasts used all their strength. The majestic power was extremely shocking, and it forced the dozens of blood-red branches to retreat. However, it was also at this moment that waves of black hurricanes came close. They carried an extremely eerie aura and swept towards the two people and two beasts, causing black vortexes to appear around them. Lin Tian's expression changed. He immediately put up a golden divine light screen and used a divine technique to resist. And Shui, whooshing crocodile, and little Taichu were not careless either. Stronger divine light appeared outside their bodies, and they used a divine technique to attack the black vortexes. However, the power of the black vortexes was beyond their imagination. It was too shocking. It was like the black cracks that appeared when the extreme Yin Temple appeared. The power inside was impossible to resist. In the blink of an eye, the divine power outside the two people and two beasts was annihilated like flames. Then, in the next moment, the two people and two beasts were swallowed by the black vortexes at the same time and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Boom! In this ancient forest, black hurricanes swept out one after another, bringing about black vortexes. After Lin Tian and the others were sucked in, the other cultivators in this area were also pulled in one after another, all of them wearing terrified expressions. Soon, everyone in the ancient forest was swallowed up. His vision once again fell into darkness. Lin Tianji felt that he couldn't move at all. He could only feel a bone-piercing chill. He knew that he was sucked into the black vortex just now. At this time, he secretly sensed his body in the endless darkness and found that he was not injured. He immediately breathed a sigh of relief. From the looks of it, those black vortexes from earlier did not possess any destructive power. They should be the vortexes created by the spatial chaos caused by those black hurricanes. They merely moved the people that were swallowed into them to another location, and did not harm the people that were swallowed into them. After this, several dozen breaths of time passed in the blink of an eye. His field of vision was no longer completely dark. He fell out of the void of darkness, once again stepping on a solid ground. As far as the eye could see, the temperature of this space was extremely high. There were many flame ponds around him. Red magma tumbled in the flame ponds as if it could melt everything. This place, whooshing crocodile's voice rang out beside him. It glanced at the flame ponds in this place, its eyes filled with fear. The magma in the flame ponds looked really frightening. Even though it was a true immortal, it still felt a chill down its spine. I reckon that if a golden immortal fell in, he would be burned to ashes in an instant. And Shui shrunk its neck. Lin Tian nodded. Naturally, he also felt the terrifying burning power of the magma in the flame ponds. He glanced around, paused, and his expression changed. Where's the little guy? Looking around, he suddenly realized that Shui and whooshing crocodile were beside him, but little Taichu was not. And Shui and whooshing crocodile reacted at this moment. They also suddenly realized that little Taichu was not with them at this moment. Their expressions immediately changed. Was the little guy sucked into those black vortexes and taken to somewhere else? That should be the case. Whooshing crocodile and Shui said. Lin Tian frowned. He also thought of this point. After a pause, he said, "Let's look for the little guy first." Those black vortexes earlier only moved those who were sucked into them to other spatial locations. They did not hurt those who were sucked into them. Therefore, the little guy was undoubtedly safe and sound. Even so, he was still very worried at this time. After all, this was the extreme Yin Temple. Danger was everywhere. The little guy was not very mature yet. He was still like a child. Now that he was suddenly separated from them, how could he be at ease? Immediately, he called out to Shui and whooshing crocodile. Each of them spread out their powerful divine senses to search for the little guy's aura. Gurgle, gurgle. In this place, there were many flame ponds connected to each other. As the magma churned, it gave off a bubbling sound. Lin Tian and Shui and whooshing crocodile spread out their powerful divine senses to search for the little guy's aura. Gradually, they walked into the distance. Ah! Screams of agony came from the front. They were not the only cultivators who were sucked in by the black vortex. There were others as well. At this time, a 3-meter-tall magma giant stood up from a flame pool and directly pulled a cultivator into the flame pool. In an instant, the cultivator who was pulled into the flame pool was enveloped by rolling magma and turned into ashes. There's a flame demon in the flame pool. Be careful. Retreat. Leave this place. The nearby cultivator's expressions changed. Someone shouted loudly. These people were not weak. Even the weakest of them was a true immortal. However, at this moment, their faces were filled with horror as they quickly fled into the distance. Lin Tian and the others saw this scene, but they did not care. At this time, powerful divine senses surrounded the surroundings, carefully searching for the little Taichu. However, they could not sense the slightest bit of the little guy's aura nearby. Boom! Beside them, a flame demon rushed out from a flame pool. It was 20 feet tall and spread out its huge flaming hand to grab the two people and the beast. The flame demon's aura was very terrifying and extremely powerful. Wherever the flaming hand passed, the void would be burned and distorted. Lin Tian was not careless. He immediately supported the reincarnation diagram of the king's territory and faced the flame demon's flaming hand. Bang! The reincarnation diagram was very powerful. When it collided with the flame demon's flaming hand, the flame demon was shaken and flipped over, splashing magma all over the sky. Let's go! Lin Tian on Dao. The reincarnation diagram only knocked down the flame demon that stood up from the flame pool. It did not hurt the other party, which made him a little shocked by the other party's strength. However, this shock disappeared in an instant. Now, whether the flame demon that stood up from the flame pool was strong or not, and whether the reincarnation diagram could hurt, it was not important. What was important was to find the little guy as soon as possible. He was very fast, but Shui Shui and Whooshing Crocodile were also very fast. They moved very quickly and were very far away. Their divine senses spread out in all directions. Boom! 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 This place was a flame valley. There were many flame pools. Flame demons that were condensed from magma stood up one after another and attacked Lin Tian, Whooshing Crocodile, and Shui Shui. Lin Tian and the others each used powerful divine abilities and secret techniques to block the attacks. At the same time, they constantly changed their positions to avoid all the flame demons. Soon, they arrived at the edge of the flame valley. Ah! Behind them, miserable screams echoed. There were other cultivators in the flame valley. Most of them were not as strong as Lin Tian, and Shui Shui, and Whooshing Crocodile. Many cultivators were pulled into the flame pools by the flame demons. In an instant, their bodies and souls were burned. Let's go! Lin Tian on Dao did not care about the cultivators in the flame valley behind him. He called out to Shui Shui and Whooshing Crocodile and stepped out. Now, finding the little Taichu was the most important thing. How could they have the time to care about the unfamiliar cultivators in the flame valley behind them? Stepping into the flame valley, the air immediately became gloomy again. As far as the eye could see, the soil was crimson red. Lin Tian and Shui Shui and Whooshing Crocodile used their powerful divine senses to explore their surroundings. Gradually, they walked far away. About 14 hours later, an extremely dense bloody smell appeared in the air. Moreover, other figures appeared in front of them. They were walking into the distance. Their spirits were incomparably strong, and there were immortal kings intertwining with each other. This is the great figures of the immortal realm who rushed into the calm, ancient land earlier have all come to this place. Whooshing Crocodile was moved. In front of them, there were dozens of figures. The auras intertwining around their bodies were shockingly strong. They were all immortal kings. And Shui Shui twitched his nose, and then said, "There is the bloody smell of the hell pool in the air here." After these immortal kings were swept into the extreme En Temple, they seemed to have followed the aura of the hell pool to this place. Lin Tian nodded. Naturally, he also sensed the unique bloody smell of the hell pool in the air of this place. Just like in Shui Shui, he guessed that these immortal kings had found this place for the hell pool of blood. After being swept into the extreme En Temple, they actually still have the leisure to look for the hell pool of blood and want to obtain the majestic power in the hell pool of blood. These old fellows are really careless. Don't they feel any sense of danger? Whooshing Crocodile said. It's not that they don't feel any sense of danger. I reckon that after they were swept into this place, even though their cultivation was at the immortal king realm, they still couldn't find a way out. As such, After sensing the aura of the hell pool of blood, they naturally chased after it. Under normal circumstances, they wouldn't be able to find a way out. However, if they could obtain the power of the hell pool of blood, their strength would instantly soar. At that time, they might be able to directly open a way out of this place. And Shui said. Whooshing Crocodile thought for a moment and said, "Oh, that makes sense." Lin Tian also agreed with Shui's guess. Then, in the next moment, his expression changed slightly. He suddenly looked into the distance and said, "Found it." At this moment, he looked into the distance. That direction was the same as the direction that the dozens of immortal kings had stepped into. In that location, he sensed the aura of the little Taichu. And Shui and Whooshing Crocodile naturally knew what he was talking about. Found it meant that they had sensed the aura of the little Taichu. They looked in the direction that he was looking in, and not long after, their expressions changed. I also sensed it. The little guy is in that direction. He's about 1,000,000 miles away from this place. And Shui said. Lin Tian nodded and immediately called in Shui and Whooshing Crocodile over. Chapter 1601. The sound of the drum was supposed to be loud and clear, but at this moment, the sound of the drum in this space gave off an eerie feeling. It came from the direction of the little Taichu's aura, causing the void to fluctuate. Lin Tian felt his body tremble, and even his god soul could not help but tremble. He was moved. The sound of the drum was eerie and illusory, causing his consciousness to weaken instantly. It reminded him of the bell from the Death Heavenly Palace that he heard when he entered the extreme Een Temple decades ago. The sound of the drum here and the bell at that time had an eerie ability that was very similar to the sound of the bell at that time. They could both weaken the will of living beings. However, the sound of the drum here was obviously much more powerful than the sound of the bell that he heard from the Death Heavenly Palace back then. The sky was dark, and the eerie sound of the drum sounded again from afar. Lin Tian gritted his teeth and shook his god soul, trying his best to keep his consciousness clear. It was also at this moment that another sound of the drum drifted over, causing his body to tremble again. And Shui and Whooshing Crocodile next to him were the same. At this moment, their bodies were trembling involuntarily, and their consciousness was rapidly weakening. Whooshing Crocodile was struggling with great difficulty, obviously resisting the sound of the drum. And Shui was also struggling, but soon became confused and walked toward the sound of the drum like a robot. Lin Tian gritted his teeth. Affected by the sound of the drum, his body was trembling a little. He stretched out his hand with great difficulty and pulled in Shui back. He shook his divine power and directly propped up the reincarnation chart of the king's territory, enveloping himself, and Shui and Whooshing Crocodile. Then, he used his mind to call out the primitive emperor token in his sea of consciousness, using this ancient treasure to guard their consciousness. Suddenly, his consciousness and God's soul stabilized, and his body no longer trembled, returning to normal. At the same time, Whooshing Crocodile returned to normal, and Shui, on the other hand, was a little slower. After a full 10 breaths, Lin Tian injected a trace of the Sun Heart Sutra's golden divine power into Shui's body. Her delicate body trembled violently as she couldn't help but shout, "Soul reaping! Silence!" Lin Tian Dao. The eerie sound of the drum continued. After Shui heard Lin Tian's voice, she immediately quietened down. Just now, that drum sound, she swallowed her saliva. She still had some recollection of what had just happened. She had almost been forcefully pulled to an unknown place by that eerie drum sound. Weakening or even stripping away one's consciousness can turn one into a walking corpse. Lin Tiandao. His gaze turned to the front. In that direction, there were several dozen Celestial King-level cultivators. At this moment, their expressions had all become sluggish. Like marionettes on strings, they walked away into the distance. It was as if their consciousnesses had been completely suppressed. And Shui followed Lin Tian's gaze and naturally saw this scene. She couldn't help but change her expression. Even immortal king-level powerhouses have their consciousness suppressed and can't control themselves? She was shocked, and then looked at Lin Tiandao. Say, even immortal king-level powerhouses can't resist that drum sound. How did you block it? And at the same time, you made us return to normal. She was really shocked. Even immortal king-level powerhouses couldn't resist the drum sound, but Lin Tian, a true immortal, completely blocked it. Moreover, he still had the strength to wake the others. When I first entered Extreme Een Temple, I heard a bell sound very similar to this drum sound. It can be said that I have a certain degree of resistance and adaptability to this sound, so its effect on me is smaller. This stupid crocodile also heard this before, so when it faced the drum sound just now, its resistance to the drum sound is much stronger than yours. Lin Tiandao. Of course, the most important thing should be the effect of the primitive Emperor token. In the end, it completely blocked that drum sound. Without it, even if I had heard a bell sound similar to this drum sound before, I definitely wouldn't have been able to block it in the end. Beside him, the palm-sized primitive Emperor token intertwined with a faint blue light. When the eerie drum sound continued to spread, the strange power that could steal one's soul was directly blocked by the invisible aura emitted by the primitive Emperor token. So that's how it is? And Shui understood. Her gaze fell on the palm-sized primitive Emperor token, and her eyes lit up. This is really a heaven-defying divine object. Indeed, very amazing, Whooshing Crocodile said. Thinking about it, they have been saved by the primitive Emperor token many times. The eerie drum sound gradually disappeared. In front, the immortal king-level powerhouses of the immortal domain had gone far in the direction of the eerie drum sound. At this time, they had completely disappeared from the vision of Lin Tiandao and Shui and Whooshing Crocodile. Lin Tiandao paused in place, put away the primitive Emperor token, and then called in Shui and Whooshing Crocodile to walk in that direction. Because the aura of the little Taichu also came from that direction, he must find the little guy. He and Shui and Whooshing Crocodile walked in the direction of the drum sound, all of them looking very careful and cautious. Soon after, they had gone far, crossing several Wushan mountains in a row. At this moment, suddenly, Lin Tiandao couldn't help but tremble. "Get out of the way!" He shouted in a low voice, and a soft golden divine power intertwined, enveloping in Shui and Whooshing Crocodile, and pushing him hundreds of feet away. At the same time, he also quickly dodged, turning into a bolt of lightning, and moved away from the previous position. Almost at the moment he moved away, a blood-colored soul shadow appeared, and a great force fell on his left arm. Poof! Blood splattered everywhere, and his entire left arm was directly pulled off, and then directly exploded in the void. A mere true immortal ant's divine sense is actually so sharp. A sneer came out. A blood soul appeared at the place where he stood just now, full of killing intent, and stared at Lin Tiandao with a sneer. Blood ancestor. Lin Tiandao moved more than 100 feet away, his body flashing with golden light, and his severed left arm instantly regenerated. At this time, looking at the blood soul in front of him, he couldn't help but grit his teeth. He never would have thought that in the Extreme Een Temple, he would meet the blood ancestor who tried to steal his body in the peaceful ancient land. The blood ancestor was also swept into the Extreme Een Temple. At the same time, and Shui and Whooshing Crocodile, who were wrapped in divine power and thrown out by him, steadied themselves. Naturally, they also saw the blood ancestor and understood why Lin Tiandao had thrown them out before. It turned out that he had sensed the blood ancestor's attack. That old thing was also swept in. Whooshing Crocodile cursed. The blood ancestor didn't have a physical body and was completely a soul body. He looked at Lin Tiandao, his eyes full of sinister light, like a vengeful ghost. "I never thought that I would meet you again so soon. This time, let's see how you escape. The heavens have destined that your physical body will be mine." He laughed eerily. "You're laughing at your mother." Whooshing Crocodile cursed. "You old thing. You were almost beaten to death by the celestial dragon soul. You must have been severely injured, right? How much combat power do you have left now? How dare you come out and show off like this? You're asking for a beating. Lord Crocodile, Kid Lin, and Shui will join forces and kill you. The Blood Ancestor looked at whooshing Crocodile with cold eyes. Reptile. As he spoke, there was a loud bang, and his body suddenly exuded a strong aura. A divine aura spread out. As soon as this divine aura came out, a large part of the void in this place collapsed on the spot. What happened to you? Whooshing Crocodile trembled immediately. True god-level fluctuations, this and Shui also trembled. At the same time, Lin Tiandao's expression changed drastically. Not long ago, the Blood Ancestor was almost beaten to death by the Celestial Dragon Soul and barely escaped. At that time, Lin Tiandao could sense that the Blood Ancestor's soul power was extremely weak. Even a true immortal like him could kill the Blood Ancestor. But now, not much time had passed, and the Blood Ancestor, who was on the verge of death, had recovered to such an extent. He was many times stronger than when he had just woken up. This was unbelievable. This was not normal at all. In such a short period of time, it was impossible for him to recover to such an extent in such a tragic state. The Blood Ancestor sneered. He could clearly see why Lin Tiandao and the others were shocked. He said, "The heavens are on my side." The Hell Blood Pool actually appeared in that area. When it was completely sucked into the extreme Yin Temple, I forcibly extracted a drop of true blood from it. Hey, I have to say, the true blood in the Hell Blood Pool is really extraordinary. Its magical effects are amazing. Lin Tiandao and the others' expressions changed again. This Blood Ancestor had actually intercepted a drop of true blood from the Hell Blood Pool. Legend had it that the Hell Blood Pool had a majestic and unparalleled power. Now, it was obvious that the drop of true blood from the Hell Blood Pool that the Blood Ancestor intercepted must have contained a trace of the majestic power of the Hell Blood Pool. That was why the Blood Ancestor could recover to such an extent in such a short time. Let's go! He gritted his teeth and called for Shui and whooshing Crocodile to retreat as quickly as possible. He didn't know what level the Blood Ancestor was at when he was at his peak, but now that he had the power of a true god, he definitely wasn't someone they could contend against. Their only option was to escape. If they escaped, they still had a chance to survive. Even if it was to find the little Taichu, he still had to preserve his life. If he died here, how could he find the little Taichu? Whoosh! 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 He and Shui and whooshing Crocodile all raised their speed to the limit at this moment. In the blink of an eye, they crossed tens of thousands of feet. The Blood Ancestor stood in place, not moving at all to chase after them. There was a cold smile on his face. He waved his right hand, and a few drops of blood appeared. It was the blood that had flowed out when he tore off Lin Tiandao's arm. He used these drops of blood as a guide and added a wisp of his own soul power. In the blink of an eye, a huge blood array was formed around him. With your blood as the guide in your life origin aura, which I am familiar with, as the core of the array, this blood-devouring divine array will be created. No matter where you go, no matter where you are, you will be pulled into the array in the blink of an eye. This is because your life origin has always been with you. The Blood Ancestor sneered. He pointed his finger, and the blood-devouring divine array in front of him suddenly emitted a dazzling blood-red light. Chapter 1602. An invisible force shrouded Lin Tian's body, causing Lin Tian's expression to change drastically. The force was so strong that it felt like a galaxy was pressing down on him. He gritted his teeth and tried his best to resist, but it was useless. The invisible force was too amazing. At this time, it was pulling him towards the direction he escaped from. Damn it! He was shocked and anxious. He naturally understood that this situation was related to the Blood Ancestor. Although he escaped tens of thousands of meters away, he still heard the Blood Ancestor's words about the blood-devouring divine formation. At this time, he knew very well that this was a disaster for him. And Shui and whooshing Crocodile naturally noticed this situation. They were both shocked and tried their best to help, but it was useless. Instead, they were directly sent flying by the great force shrouding Lin Tian's body. almost vomiting blood. Unless you throw away your life source, you can only be pulled into my blood-devouring divine formation. However, can you throw away your life source? Impossible. In the distance, the blood ancestor sneered coldly. Your body is destined to be mine. In front of him, all kinds of strange patterns intertwined, with a few drops of Lin Tian's blood as the seal, and a wisp of Lin Tian's life source that he got familiar with after rushing into Lin Tian's life source. It was used as the core of the formation to forcefully capture Lin Tian. Lin Tian's body was pulled uncontrollably from tens of thousands of meters away towards the blood formation at an extremely fast speed. Lin Tian gritted his teeth and tried even harder to resist. However, just like before, it was still useless. 10th heaven, 9th heaven, Ethereal Mountain. Ethereal Mountain is the most mysterious place in the 9th heaven. There are many immortal trees growing there, and the aura here is soft and rich. It's like a small immortal realm. Among them, the main peak in the center is full of treasures, and all kinds of gorgeous aura interweaved on the peak. In a small courtyard on the main peak, Wu Yi was making tea, while the purple fairy and AI were sitting on the side. The fragrance of tea lingered in the air. At this moment, the space around Wu Yi distorted and directly sucked Wu Yi in. Such a scene caused the expressions of the violet fairy and AI, who were waiting for Wu Yi to brew tea, to change. They were both shocked. Someone is forcefully capturing Wu Yi across the boundless space? The violet fairy revealed a strange expression. Who would be so bold? Immortal region, extreme in temple. An invisible force enveloped Lin Tian and forcefully pulled him toward the blood ancestor's blood-swallowing divine formation. No matter how Lin Tian tried to resist, it was to no avail. And Shui and whooshing crocodile repeatedly used their divine powers and secret techniques to no avail. In the blink of an eye, the distance of hundreds of thousands of feet was covered in a flash. Lin Tian was forcefully pulled into the blood-devouring divine array by an invisible force. The blood-swallowing deity array interweaved with strands of bloody light and was pulled into it. Lin Tianji felt his entire body become numb, and he couldn't even move a finger. He looked at the blood ancestor outside the blood formation and became even more anxious. The blood ancestor stood outside the blood-devouring divine array and sneered at Lin Tian. Your body is very strange. Your essence is very strange and wonderful. He stepped into the blood formation. Everything was under his control, and he wasn't worried about Lin Tian resisting at all. That was because it was completely impossible. What could a true immortal do against him, who had the power of a true god? Even if Lin Tian's essence was strange, he still had the power to deal with it. With my current power, although I haven't fully recovered, I have no problem dealing with your strange essence and taking your physical body. After that, with that strange body of yours, I will definitely be able to reach the peak of my power in the shortest time possible and surpass my former self. He sneered and walked toward Lin Tian step by step. In the distance, and Shui and whooshing crocodile were extremely anxious. Even though they knew they couldn't do anything, they still rushed toward the blood formation. Within the blood formation, Lin Tian struggled with all his might, but it was useless. He could only watch as the blood ancestor closed in on him. The blood ancestor sneered and walked toward Lin Tian calmly, paying no attention to his surroundings. In the blink of an eye, he was only 10 meters away from Lin Tian, who was imprisoned by the blood-devouring divine array. At that moment, the space beside Lin Tian suddenly distorted, and a young woman silently appeared. She was dressed in a white silk dress and held a purple teapot in her right hand. She looked as if she had walked out of a painting. She was very quiet and peaceful. At the same time, she was very beautiful, extremely beautiful. Because of her appearance, the space suddenly quieted down. The originally cold air suddenly became much warmer at this moment. Wu Yi. Lin Tian's expression immediately changed. The woman in the white dress in front of him was Wu Yi. He was shocked that Wu Yi had suddenly appeared here. At the same time, in the distance, whooshing crocodile, who was charging toward the blood-devouring divine array, was also shocked. Miss Wu Yi and Shui Shui was also shocked to see a woman in a white dress suddenly appear in the blood-devouring divine array. When she heard Whooshing Crocodile's voice, she was even more shocked. She looked at Whooshing Crocodile and said, "You know her?" As she spoke, she looked back at Wu Yi, who was in the blood formation. The shock on her face deepened, and her eyes flickered. So beautiful. She was also a woman, and an extremely beautiful one at that. She had always been very confident in her looks, but at this moment, when she saw Wu Yi suddenly appear in the blood-devouring divine array, she couldn't help but feel ashamed of her inferiority. Looking at Wu Yi, her beauty stunned her. She found it hard to imagine that there could be such a beautiful person in this world. Even though she was also a woman, she couldn't help but feel her heart flutter at this moment. At the same time, in the blood formation, the blood ancestor stopped in his tracks and looked at Wu Yi. Who is it? He had used the blood-devouring divine array to forcefully capture Lin Tian. Previously, he could sense that there was no one else nearby besides Lin Tian and Shui Shui, Whooshing Crocodile, and himself. But now, someone had suddenly appeared in his blood-devouring divine array. In the blood formation, Wu Yi was holding a purple sand teapot. A faint white mist was still rising from the teapot's mouth, and the fragrance of tea was wafting out. A moment ago, she was still brewing tea. Then, in the next moment, she and the teapot had been swept to this place. Even so, there wasn't the slightest hint of confusion or shock on her face. She was still very calm. At the same time, after being swept to this place, she naturally saw Lin Tian beside her. "Do you want to drink tea?" She looked at Lin Tian and paused for a moment. Then, she used her divine will to transmit her voice. It was as gentle as the sound of a zither. Lin Tian, although he had always known that Wu Yi was usually very quiet, so quiet that she basically didn't show any emotion. At this time, when Wu Yi suddenly appeared here with a purple sand teapot and asked him in a gentle voice, "Do you want to drink tea?" he couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. After a pause, he asked, "Why are you here?" Wu Yi looked at him, still very quiet. Her voice was also very gentle. "It has something to do with your origin." Lin Tianyi was stunned. Then, a strange light flashed through his eyes. At this time, when he heard Wu Yi's words, he immediately understood why Wu Yi would appear in this blood-devouring divine formation at this time. It was because when he was still in the 10 Directions Heaven domain, he had forcibly given Wu Yi a lot of his origin to save Wu Yi. The reincarnation origin that belonged to him had always been in Wu Yi's origin. Now, the blood progenitor had used his blood as the seal and his origin as the core of the formation to create the blood-devouring divine formation to forcibly capture him. Even Wu Yi, who possessed his origin, was swept into this place. Of course, back in the 10 Directions Heaven domain, he had also given Xiao AI some of his reincarnation origin. However, that was to treat Xiao AI's injuries. After the seal of life and death formed in Xiao AI's body, the reincarnation origin he had given to Xiao AI disappeared. Moreover, the reincarnation origin he had given to Xiao AI was far less than the reincarnation origin he had given to Wu Yi. This, looking at Wu Yi, who had suddenly appeared in front of him, and thinking about the reason for his appearance, he was a little stunned. At this moment, the blood-devouring divine formation lit up, and the blood progenitor stepped forward again. At the same time, he slapped towards Wu Yi. "Scram," he said coldly. He didn't know who Wu Yi was, nor did he know why Wu Yi had suddenly appeared in this blood-devouring divine formation. However, it didn't matter. He didn't care. Now he only cared about Lin Tian. He wanted to immediately seize Lin Tian's physical body. "Be careful," Lin Tian shouted at Wu Yi. This blood progenitor was extremely terrifying. He was at the true god level. At the same time, in the distance, Whooshing Crocodile also shouted, "Be careful." Chi. Within the blood formation, the blood progenitor's large hand slapped down. The murderous aura of blood was terrifying to hear, annihilating inch by inch the void. With that kind of aura, even an immortal king would be instantly destroyed in body and soul if struck by it. In the blink of an eye, the blood progenitor's large blood-red hand was in front of Wu Yi. Wu Yi's back was facing the blood progenitor ever since he appeared here. At this moment, he held the purple clay teapot and didn't move at all. It was as if he didn't feel the blood progenitor's large hand at all. His gaze was still fixed on Lin Tian. He was very calm. In the next moment, the void was annihilated. The blood progenitor's large hand landed even closer to Wu Yi. It was only about 3 inches away from Wu Yi. However, it was also at this moment that the descending blood-red hand seemed to have encountered some kind of obstruction. It couldn't suppress it no matter what. Then, in the next moment, his body trembled violently. Like a blood-red scarecrow, he flew tens of thousands of feet away with a bang. Crack! 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 As the blood progenitor flew, a series of crisp sounds rang out. Immediately, dense cracks appeared on the blood-devouring divine formation formed by the blood progenitor. Like a spider web, it spread in all directions. Then it immediately collapsed and shattered into pieces. Instantly, the invisible force that enveloped Lin Tian's body disappeared. He could move again. Wu Yi, looking at Wu Yi in front of him, a shocked expression appeared on his face. Chapter 16:03. Lin Tian stared at Wu Yi, his eyes full of shock. He was truly stunned. The powerful blood ancestor had attacked Wu Yi, but Wu Yi hadn't done anything. She hadn't even moved, but the blood ancestor had been sent flying. This was too shocking. After all, the blood ancestor was now at the true god realm. Not only him, but Wuxing Crocodile and Shui Shui also turned pale. That blood ancestor, he was actually... And Shui's eyes widened. What just happened? Just now, she had only seen the blood ancestor mercilessly attack Wu Yi. Then, in the next moment, the blood ancestor had been sent flying. Other than that, she hadn't seen anything else. Wu Yi had been standing quietly in place. In front of her, Wu Yi's gaze fell on Lin Tian. The purple sand teapot in her hand silently disappeared. Then she tilted her head and looked around. Extreme Yin Temple, she whispered. Obviously, she knew about Extreme Yin Temple. During this process, she didn't pay any attention to the blood ancestor, who had been sent flying after attacking her. It was as if he didn't exist. Boom! Terrifying divine energy shot into the sky. Tens of thousands of feet away, the blood ancestor rushed into the sky. His terrifying murderous aura seemed to corrode everything. In the blink of an eye, he rushed back. Who are you? Looking at Wu Yi, the blood ancestor shouted coldly. His face was filled with sinister anger, but at the same time, there was a trace of shock. Although he hadn't recovered to his peak state, he still had the strength of a true immortal. Under such circumstances, his attack towards Wu Yi hadn't hurt Wu Yi. Instead, it had sent him flying. Wu Yi's back was facing the blood ancestor. It was as if she hadn't heard the blood ancestor's voice. She didn't respond to the blood ancestor's shout. She looked around and saw Wuxing Crocodile and Shui in the distance. Her gaze fell on Lin Tian again. She asked softly, "Where's little Tai Chu?" When Lin Tian left the 10 Directions heavenly domain to train, she knew that the Wuxing Crocodile and little Tai Chu had followed Lin Tian. However, at this time, she saw Lin Tian and Wuxing Crocodile, but not the little Tai Chu. Lin Tian looked in the direction of the little fella's aura and said to Wu Yi, "The little fella is, boom, S's murderous aura's murderous auras. He's blood ancestors is he, S's he's is he's. I don't care. All of you, die for me," he shouted coldly. Then his spiritual energy trembled and transformed into a blood-red killing sword. He held the killing sword and slashed it directly at Wu Yi. This sword was so terrifying that it made Lin Tian and the others tremble. Their internal organs instantly became cold and piercing. Moreover, the terrifying murderous aura intertwined with the sword's aura. It froze all directions, making it so that they couldn't even speak. In the blink of an eye, this sword slashed at Wu Yi's back, aiming for Wu Yi's head. Wherever the sword passed, everything was annihilated. It was unknown how many times stronger it was than the bloody palm that attacked Wu Yi. However, although this sword was terrifying, it was just like the blood ancestor's palm. It stopped about 3 inches in front of Wu Yi and couldn't move an inch further. Then, with a crack, it shattered, turning into a blood-red light that filled the sky. It was like a wave of blood-red chi that reverberated towards the blood ancestor. In the blink of an eye, it landed on the blood ancestor's body. Suddenly, the blood ancestor's soul trembled violently. Cracking sounds were heard, and cracks appeared on his body. Lin Tian couldn't help but reveal a shocked expression. The blood ancestor, who had unleashed a terrifying killing sword, had attacked Wu Yi in the same way as before. Wu Yi hadn't moved at all, and the blood ancestor had been injured. Not far away, and Shui and Wuxing Crocodile couldn't help but tremble when they saw this scene. She's so strong. And Shui's heart palpitated. The blood ancestor now had the strength of a true god. However, he had attacked Wu Yi twice in a row, and Wu Yi hadn't moved at all. This made her extremely shocked. Wuxing Crocodile was also shocked. He looked straight at Wu Yi and said, "I've seen her fight before. She's very strong, but this..." Back in the 10 Directions heaven, he had seen Wu Yi fight and knew that Wu Yi was very strong. However, he had never imagined that she was this strong. Now the blood ancestor, who had the strength of a true god, had attacked Wu Yi twice in a row, but he had been injured. Moreover, Wu Yi hadn't moved at all throughout the entire process. What kind of strength was this? Bastard! The blood ancestor roared angrily, and the murderous aura became even more violent and terrifying. Wu Yi had been injured twice in a row, and Wu Yi hadn't even looked at him. The blood ancestor was completely enraged. At this moment, dense blood-red ancient runes appeared outside his soul. The destructive murderous aura corroded the void around him inch by inch. Countless blood-red skulls appeared, and divine might appeared. Whoa! Terrifying cries came from the blood-red skulls, as if countless vengeful spirits were screaming within them. Obviously, this was a terrifying great mystique. Die! The blood ancestor roared. Countless blood-red skulls appeared around him, and with a destructive and corrosive aura, they bombarded Wu Yi. In an instant, the void in all directions collapsed. Wu Yi stood beside Lin Tian, but she didn't move at all. Countless blood-red skulls with blood-red ancient runes flooded over, as if they were going to destroy the world. However, the instant these blood-colored skulls and blood-colored ancient symbols approached Wu Yi, they were like weak flames that had encountered a huge wave. With a chi-chi-chi sound, they were shattered one after another. In the blink of an eye, they had completely disappeared. At the same time, with a bang, the blood ancestor, who had attacked with a great mystique, was forced to retreat a dozen steps. He looked at Wu Yi, and a trace of shock appeared on his face. At the same time, Lin Tian and Shui and Wuxing Crocodile were naturally quite shocked. Now, the blood ancestor, who had the strength of a true god, had unleashed a terrifying great mystique, but in the end, the result was no different from the previous 2 times he had attacked Wu Yi. Wu Yi's back was still facing the blood ancestor, as if she hadn't seen the blood ancestor at all. In fact, it was as if she hadn't even sensed that someone was attacking her. She was as quiet as a fairy in a painting, and she only quietly looked at Lin Tian. Lin Tian was shocked by Wu Yi's strength, but at this time, when he saw Wu Yi quietly looking at him, he couldn't help but be slightly stunned. However, in the next instant, he understood Wu Yi didn't like to talk much, and it was very difficult for her to show any emotional fluctuations. At this time, she was quietly looking at him, as if she was waiting for him to talk about the little Taichu. Previously, when I was swept into the extreme Yin Temple, I accidentally got separated from the little guy. While paying attention to the blood ancestor's movements, he pointed in the direction where he had sensed the little Taichu's aura. He said to Wu Yi, "The little guy seems to be there." Wu Yi tilted her head and looked in the direction Lin Tian was pointing. Whoosh! Whoosh! Two sounds of air breaking rang out. At this time, whooshing crocodile and Shui flashed over. Miss Wu Yi, long time no see. Whooshing crocodile greeted her and said, the little guy's aura came from the direction that Brat Lin just pointed to. We were just preparing to go find the little guy, but then we were targeted by the blood ancestor. As it spoke, it looked at the blood ancestor and said to Wu Yi, this old guy has his eyes on Brat Lin's physical body. He wants to steal Brat Lin's physical body and use it as a vessel for his blood soul. Can you deal with him? After we deal with him, we'll go find the little guy. This blood ancestor was very strong, and he had his eyes set on Lin Tian's physical body. It was really a big problem. Now that Wu Yi had suddenly appeared here, it deeply felt Wu Yi's strength. It was shocked and horrified, but in addition to its shock, it naturally thought of the blood ancestor. It felt that Wu Yi should be able to kill this powerful blood ancestor. Hearing whooshing crocodile's words, Wu Yi withdrew her gaze from the direction of the little Taichu's aura and looked at Lin Tian. Then, she tilted her head, and for the first time, her gaze fell on the blood ancestor. Her expression was very calm, and her eyes were very calm. There was no trace of emotion, but the powerful blood ancestor couldn't help but tremble. Wait until I recover to my peak. Then I will definitely kill you. Staring at Wu Yi, the blood ancestor said coldly. Then he glanced at Lin Tian and said, your physical body will be mine. After saying this, he didn't hesitate and immediately retreated. He turned into a blood-red light and stepped into the distance at an astonishing speed. At this time, Wu Yi, who had attacked 3 times in a row, was injured. He naturally saw how powerful Wu Yi was. Now that he wasn't in his peak state, he was no match for her. If he continued to stay, he wouldn't be able to obtain any good results. At this time, he chose to retreat to save himself. Whoosh! His speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he was tens of thousands of feet away. Wu Yi stood next to Lin Tian. Her expression was the same as ever. She was very calm and looked at the blood ancestor who had escaped into the distance. Then, in the next moment, the blood ancestor, who had already escaped tens of thousands of feet away, trembled violently. An invisible spatial barrier seemed to have appeared in front of him. With a bang, he was shaken back and fell to the ground in a sorry state. He directly smashed a lot of the ground. He struggled to stand up and looked at Wu Yi in shock and anger. Wu Yi didn't say anything, nor did she do anything. Only a faint divine light descended from the sky. The divine light was gentle, just like Wu Yi himself. It didn't make people feel the slightest bit of strength or pressure. In the blink of an eye, it enveloped the blood ancestor. However, it was this gentle divine light that was like the fall of the heavens. The moment it enveloped the blood ancestor trembled violently. The cracks on his soul that had been repaired earlier reappeared in the blink of an eye, and they became even denser than before. They spread out in all directions like a spider web. The blood ancestor's soul trembled violently. He was even more shocked and angry. The blood-red light around his body was vast and mighty. He roared, "Open for me!" Chapter 1604. The terrifying blood-red light surged and was extremely powerful. The space in this place was trembling because of this blood-red light. "Open!" the blood ancestor roared. The blood-red light around his body was terrifying as it frantically attacked Wu Yi's divine light. However, although this divine light seemed soft, it was extremely tough. It was as if nothing could break through it. At this moment, it completely enveloped the blood ancestor, sealing off all the space around it. It slowly closed in on the center, and the blood ancestor's powerful blood light had no effect at all. The faint divine light was as gentle as water, and it continued to converge toward the center. The blood ancestor's soul trembled even more violently, and more cracks appeared on it in the blink of an eye. His soul power was rapidly weakening. Damn it! The blood ancestor was shocked and furious. An even more terrifying blood-red light spread out, and a powerful divine might intertwined and shook the surroundings. Divine Tao nomological laws? Lin Tianyi shivered. The great Tao, the immortal Tao, and the divine Tao. There was a huge difference in the aura of the Tao, so he could easily distinguish between them. The blood ancestor roared and released his divine might. The divine Tao nomological laws surged, and the aura he exuded instantly became more than 10,000 times stronger than before. The fluctuations were so terrifying that Lin Tian and Shui and whooshing crocodile couldn't help but tremble. Then, in the next moment, shock appeared on the faces of the two men and one beast. This was because even though the blood progenitor's aura was more than 10,000 times stronger than before, it still didn't have the slightest effect on the divine light, suppressed by Wu Yi. This, Lin Tian was shocked. Just how tough was the divine light released by Wu Yi? Now that the blood ancestor had the strength of a true god and had released his divine Tao nomological laws, he still couldn't do anything to this divine light. The divine light was still pressing down on him. So strong. And Shui was also shocked. At the side, the five elements crocodile naturally had a look of shock as well. For a moment, the two humans and one beast couldn't help but turn to look at Wu Yi. However, they saw that Wu Yi's gaze had already moved away from the blood ancestor. At this moment, he was quietly looking at the location where the little Taichu's aura was coming from. This caused the hearts of the two humans and one beast to twitch, and Shui couldn't help but shudder. A true god. Can't make her care? This? Boom! Up ahead, the blood radiance was boundless, becoming even more powerful. Within Wu Yi's divine light, the blood ancestor was even more shocked and furious. He fought back even more ferociously, pushing his current strength to the limit. However, this did not have the slightest effect on the divine light that Wu Yi had suppressed. It was completely useless. The faint divine light was still converging toward the center at a very slow speed, and no one could sense any terrifying aura from it. However, the cracks on the blood patriarch's soul increased in number in the blink of an eye, and the intertwining soul power became even weaker. This we're finished, and Shui was shocked. It was clear that as long as the gentle divine light enveloping the blood ancestor's body was truly withdrawn, the blood ancestor would definitely be destroyed. Boom, boom, boom. The blood radiance vibrated and rushed in all directions. Within the gentle divine light, the blood ancestor roared and roared. His soul power vibrated again and again as he used all of his powerful abilities and divine laws to frantically attack the gentle divine light that Wu Yi had suppressed. However, it was all to no avail. More and more cracks appeared on his soul body, and it was like a fragile ceramic that could shatter at any moment. The intertwining soul power had weakened to an extremely low level, and it was like a weak flame that could be extinguished by the wind in the next moment. Damn it, damn it, damn it. You forced me to do this. The blood ancestor roared again, and his face became ferocious. Return to the peak. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a boom. The soul power that he was emitting, which was originally extremely weak, suddenly began to surge. It was as if a huge, ancient divine volcano had erupted, and the powerful soul power shook all directions. In the blink of an eye, the soul power that he was emitting had become even stronger than before Wu Yi had appeared. Moreover, it was still rising. Immediately, Lin Tian and Shui and whooshing crocodile's expressions changed. He seems to have used some kind of forbidden technique to forcibly increase his strength, and Shui said in shock. Lin Tian naturally saw this. The other party's soul power had gone from being on the verge of destruction to surpassing its previous level in the blink of an eye. This was definitely not normal. The only possibility was that he had used some kind of forbidden technique. Boom! Divine power surged as the blood ancestor roared. The aura on his body surged, and his speed was extremely fast. The blood radiance illuminated all directions. With a rumble, the entire world couldn't help but tremble violently, as if it would be destroyed in the next moment. Then, in just a dozen breaths, the blood radiance and soul power on his body climbed to a new height. The surging soul power was like a divine river in the starry sky, as if it could annihilate everything. Heavenly God tier? Lin Tian's expression changed. At the same time, and Shui and Whooshing Crocodile also sensed the level that the other party had reached, and they both trembled. This old thing. Whooshing Crocodile felt a chill run down his spine. Boom! Boundless divine power surged, and powerful soul power interweaved. The blood was terrifying. Within the gentle divine light, the blood ancestor's face became ferocious. He looked at Wu Yi with incomparable resentment. You forced me to return to my previous peak. You will pay the price for this. Forcefully returning to his previous heavenly god tier would cause him to pay a great price later. His cultivation level would directly fall to the celestial king tier. This was not a decline in strength, but a fall in cultivation level. If his strength fell to the celestial king tier, he could return to the heavenly god tier in a very short time. However, if his cultivation level fell to the celestial king tier, he would need to cultivate again to reach the heavenly god tier. The difference between the two was too big. Simply put, if his strength fell to the celestial king tier, he might only need a few decades or a few centuries to return to the heavenly god tier. However, if his cultivation level fell to the celestial king tier and wanted to cultivate again to the heavenly god tier, he would need to spend at least hundreds of thousands of years. It could be said that this price was very huge and very tragic. However, in order to survive now, he had no other choice. He could only use this kind of forbidden technique to return to his peak. I will make you suffer a fate worse than death. The blood ancestor roared ferociously. He stared at Wu Yi like a wild beast. And as his words fell, the divine might around his body became even more violent. The aura of the heavenly god tier seemed like it was going to destroy everything. Shatter for me! He roared madly. Carrying the nomological power of the divine Tao, he threw a punch at the gentle divine light that was pressing down on Wu Yi. In the blink of an eye, it landed on the divine light. Then, in the next moment, his expression changed greatly again. He used the forbidden technique to return to his previous peak, to the heavenly god tier. At this time, he threw a punch that carried the nomological power of the divine Tao. It landed on the gentle divine light that enveloped his body, but the result was the same as before. It had no effect at all. The divine light was gentle, and he could feel that there was not a trace of terrifying might on it. It was still pressing down on him without slowing down. Impossible! He could not help but tremble fiercely. Lin Tian and Shui and Whooshing Crocodile were also shocked. At this time, they could clearly feel how terrifying the blood ancestor was when he had returned to his peak state. They could also feel how terrifying the punch that the blood ancestor had just thrown out was. It was as if it could destroy everything. After all, his cultivation base had returned to its peak, and he had the strength of a heavenly god. However, even so, the punch of the blood ancestor, who had returned to the heavenly god tier, still had no effect on the divine light that was pressing down on Wu Yi. It did not even cause the seemingly gentle divine light to ripple at all. The two people and one beast were shocked. They turned to look at Wu Yi, only to find that Wu Yi's gaze was still the same as before. She was still looking in the direction of the little Taichu's aura. She did not seem to care about the blood ancestor, who had returned to the heavenly god tier. Just how strong is she? And Shui could not help but tremble. Shatter for me! Shatter! The blood ancestor roared. With a rumble, his strength, which had returned to the heavenly god tier, vibrated wildly. His divine Tao laws boiled, desperately attacking the gentle light that was pressing down on Wu Yi. All kinds of powerful divine abilities and secret techniques were revealed one after another, like the destructive divine waves of the galaxy. However, the situation was the same as before. No matter what kind of technique he used, it did not have any effect on the gentle divine light that was pressing down on him. As the divine light pressed down on him, more and more cracks appeared on his soul body. Moreover, his soul power, which had returned to the heavenly god tier, was also passively weakened. His aura was slowly decreasing. No! Impossible! Impossible! He roared angrily and tried to resist again. However, it was still to no avail. Cracks began to appear on his face. He looked at Wu Yi with horror in his eyes. At this moment, he knew that the seemingly gentle and quiet woman in front of him was far more powerful than him. She was many times more powerful than he had been at his peak. Stop! Stop! Let me go! I swear, I'll never have any ideas about your friend again. He could not help but cry out. As soon as he said this, Lin Tian and Shui and Whooshing Crocodile could not help but be moved. The heavenly god blood ancestor was now begging for mercy. However, Wu Yi acted as if she did not hear this voice. Her gaze was still fixed on the direction where the little Taichu's aura was coming from. The gentle divine light that enveloped the blood ancestor's soul was still pressing down on him, causing him to tremble violently again. At this time, the gentle divine light was already very close to his soul body. If Wu Yi did not stop, he would be completely crushed in 10 breaths' time. At that time, his body and soul would truly be destroyed. Stop! Stop! He yelled. However, Wu Yi did not respond to his voice at all. The gentle divine light continued to press down on him. Ah! The blood ancestor roared, his divine power vibrating. Although he knew it was useless, he still tried to resist because he did not want to die like this. However, his resistance was futile. Moreover, as the divine light pressed down on him even more, his soul body trembled even more violently, and more cracks appeared on it. His soul power was rapidly weakening, and he could not help but cry out in pain. Stop! Stop it now! Stop! Ah! Chapter 1605. The blood progenitor's soul completely vanished without a trace. Wu Yi's gentle light crushed the blood progenitor and turned it into a small speck of light that also dissipated. Lin Tian and Shui and Whooshing Crocodile's hearts all palpitated. The blood progenitor, who had recovered to the peak of the sky god realm, had been killed so easily. Just how powerful was she? So this is her strength. Could it be that she's reached the divine king realm? Lin Tian looked at Wu Yi, his eyes flashing. He finally understood why the Violet Fairy had stopped him when he'd asked about Wu Yi's cultivation level and said, "It's best if you don't know. Otherwise, you'll be under a lot of pressure." Wu Yi was actually this powerful. This is really... The Five Elements crocodile looked at Wu Yi in a daze. He was deeply shocked. He knew that Wu Yi was very strong, but he'd never imagined that she was this strong. She's so strong. And Shui looked at Wu Yi in shock and admiration. He couldn't help but jump over and say, I'm in Shui. Hello. She looked at Wu Yi, her eyes flashing. Not only was she shocked by Wu Yi's beauty, but she was even more shocked by Wu Yi's strength. It was just too shocking. Based on her knowledge, there should be no one in the current immortal domain who could stop such strength. Wu Yi shifted his gaze and looked at Shui. He nodded gently. Lin Tian took a deep breath and put away his shock. He looked at Shui and introduced Wu Yi on behalf of Shui. This is Wu Yi. Oh, she's not good at communicating with people. Wu Yi didn't like to talk much. In fact, it wasn't much different from not being good at communicating. Shui nodded and looked at Wu Yi with undisguised admiration. Sister Wu Yi, you're so beautiful. You're so strong. As a woman, Wu Yi had both peerless beauty and peerless strength. She really worshipped her and yearned for her. Wu Yi nodded and said, "You're very beautiful too." She did not speak. She had always used her divine will to speak. This made Shui a little curious, but she did not ask further. She only looked at Wu Yi without blinking. Her eyes were filled with light, as if she wanted to swallow Wu Yi in one gulp. Speaking of which, Five-Element Crocodile opened his mouth and looked at Wu Yi curiously. The blood-swallowing divine formation seemed to have been used by the blood ancestor to use Lin Fan's blood and origin aura to capture him. Miss Wu Yi, how did you suddenly appear in the blood-swallowing divine formation? Did you sense that Lin Brat was in danger and rush here? Wu Yi shook her head and looked at Lin Tian. Lin Tian was a little embarrassed when he saw Wu Yi looking at him. He said to Whooshing Crocodile, "There's a special reason for that." Whooshing Crocodile was stunned. "Special reason? What special reason?" "Oh, don't worry about that," Lin Tian said, and then looked in the direction of little Taichu's aura. "Let's go find the little guy first." Yes, yes, yes. Finding the little guy is more important." Whooshing Crocodile nodded. Lin Tian and Wu Yi said something, and then the three people and one beast walked in the direction of little Taichu's aura. Wu Yi appeared very quiet the entire time. He followed beside Lin Tian, while Shui kept looking at Wu Yi from the side. Her eyes were filled with light, and her cheeks were a little red. She was like a little girl who had just fallen in love and had seen her Prince Charming. Lin Tian, who was beside her, was speechless. The space was still dark, and there was a black fog floating in the air. Not long after, the three people and one beast walked far away. Little Taichu's aura came from the front and gradually became stronger. The three people and one beast walked in a straight line. After half an hour, a pitch-black shrine suddenly appeared in front of them. The shrine was incomparably huge and emitted a shocking amount of yin qi. Lin Tian and Shui and Whooshing Crocodile couldn't help but tremble when they felt the yin qi in this place. They felt their internal organs tremble in inexplicable pain. At the same time, little Taichu's aura became clearer and clearer. It was coming from the pitch-black shrine. "The little guy is in that shrine," Whooshing Crocodile said. Lin Tian nodded, and the three people and one beast continued to move forward. Soon, they arrived in front of the pitch-black shrine. As they came closer, the yin qi in the air became even denser. Traces of blood-red fog floated in the air, giving off a shocking, baleful blood aura. The baleful blood aura that the blood ancestor had given off could not compare to this. At the same time, Lin Tian and the others saw three ancient characters engraved on the top of the shrine. Except for Wu Yi, Lin Tian, and Shui, and Whooshing Crocodile couldn't help but be moved. Subduing Arrow Palace. One of the 11 shrines of hell has gathered in the extreme Yin Temple, and Shui and Whooshing Crocodile were shocked. Lin Tian was also surprised. He didn't expect to see the Subduing Arrow Palace, one of the 10 shrines of hell, in the extreme Yin Temple. He was really surprised. However, he quickly put away his surprise. After taking a deep breath, he called Wu Yi into the shrine. The little Taichu's aura came from this pitch-black shrine, so it was definitely in this shrine. They had to hurry and find the little guy. The shrine's gate was wide open. Blood-red fog floated in the air, and the bloody aura was shockingly strong. "It's the bloody aura unique to the Hell Blood Pool," and Shui said. Previously, the Hell Blood Pool was sucked into the extreme Yin Temple. After that, it gathered in the Subduing Arrow Palace. Whooshing Crocodile was slightly surprised. Lin Tian sensed the bloody aura here and naturally knew that it was the aura of the Hell Blood Pool. He frowned slightly. The group didn't stop. They walked straight into the shrine and followed the little Taichu's aura. Soon, they arrived at another small shrine. The little Taichu's aura came from this small shrine. It was right in front of them. The door of the small shrine was still open. The bloody aura inside was stronger than anywhere else, giving people a sense of horror. "Be careful," Lin Tian Ondao said. Wu Yi quietly followed beside him. Soon, the group walked straight into the small shrine in front of them. Then, in an instant, a thick, bloody aura shrouded all directions. Lin Tian and Shui and Whooshing Crocodile trembled at the same time. They felt as if they were enveloped by a bloody sea of death. Their internal organs instantly became ice cold, and their spirits trembled violently. As far as the eye could see, there was a huge pool of blood at the center of the small shrine. The blood in the pool was boiling. It was the blood from the Hell Pool that had been discovered in peaceful ancient land. That Hell Pool had gathered in this small shrine. At this time, dozens of figures stood upright in the blood pool of hell. They were the dozens of immortal kings who had been affected by the inexplicable ancient sound. At this time, all of them had blank expressions and did not move at all. Drops of blood essence flowed out from their bodies and gathered in the blood pool of hell. As for the dozens of people, their bodies were slowly drying up, as if they had become the nourishment for the blood pool of hell to grow. This caused Lin Tian and Shui Shui and Whooshing Crocodile to be moved. Then, the two men and one beast's eyes were filled with shock. In the center of the hell blood pool, there was a circular platform about 10 meters in diameter. At the center of the platform sat a well-built figure, emitting an extremely frightening aura of death and ghastly aura. At the same time, in the hell blood pool, patches of bloody light filled with a murderous aura drifted towards the figure, and strands of it entered his body. Looking at this figure, Lin Tian and Shui Shui and Whooshing Crocodile couldn't help but tremble violently. Just by looking at the figure, they felt a huge pressure that was like a galaxy, causing them to be unable to breathe for a moment. The figure just sat there quietly, but it was like a peerless emperor, like the ruler of death. Then, in the next moment, the two men and one beast's gazes fell on the figure, and they couldn't help but be moved. Little guy! Next to the figure, there was a cage condensed from bloody light in the void. The cage was covered with strange runes, and the little Taichu was locked in the cage, unconscious at the moment. Looking at the little fellow trapped in the cage, Lin Tian could not help but move his feet and take a step forward. At this time, on the platform in the center of the hell blood pool, the tall figure slowly opened his eyes. It was a pair of blood-red pupils, like the eyes of death. As the figure opened his eyes, Lin Tian couldn't help but tremble violently, and his footsteps involuntarily came to a halt. At the same time, and Shui Shui and Whooshing Crocodile's hearts also skipped a beat. They met the figure's bloody eyes, and an intense pain appeared all over their bodies, as if they would explode in the next moment. It was also at this moment that the figure on the platform spoke. His expression was indifferent and casual. Strands of bloody light from the blood pool of hell continuously surged into his body. Previously, someone broke free from my concealed arrow drum. Was it you? Very interesting. As the person spoke, the Shi and bloody aura in the small shrine became even thicker, as if they were going to freeze everything. Lin Tian and Shui Shui and Whooshing Crocodile were all shocked. This person lived in the concealed arrow hall and said this king's concealed arrow drum. Could it be that he was the hall master of the concealed arrow hall, one of the 11 shrines of hell? The legendary concealed arrow king of hell from before the primordial age. This, and Shui Shui couldn't help but palpitate. The concealed arrow king of hell was an ancient existence in the legends. Lin Tian's heart also palpitated. He didn't expect that the little Taichu, who was accidentally separated, would be captured by the legendary concealed arrow king of hell. Even so, even though he knew that the other party was terrifying, he still couldn't help but shout, "Let go of the little guy." On the platform, the concealed arrow king of hell naturally knew that the little guy Lin Tian mentioned was the little Taichu in the cage. He tilted his head to look at the little Taichu. Then his gaze fell on Lin Tian and the others again. Since ancient times, there have been no more than 10 members of the royal family of fairy spirit. Each of them is a huge hidden danger. Once discovered, they must be suppressed with all their might. This is the Holy King's decree. He looked at Lin Tian and changed the topic. However, this king just woke up from a deep sleep and is bored. I'll give you a chance. Do whatever you want. As long as you can bring the royal family of fairy spirit out of this blood prison, this king will let you leave. He sat cross-legged in the middle of the platform, bloody light intertwining around his body. Lin Tian gritted his teeth. He knew that the blood prison set up by this legendary ancient figure was incomparably sturdy. It was definitely not something he could break. The other party's words were completely treating them as entertainment. However, even so, he still moved. With a single step, he stepped forward. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.